I was just going live, yo. I
There
played
we
the
go.
intro without going live. Apologies, you know what I'm saying? But we here. Shout to Will of 300 pounds of sports knowledge. Shout to PSPN, the kitchen sink, the kitchen sink podcast. We here, man. Y'all see the title of the show, playoff possibilities. And shit, man, it's a lot of things shaking. You know what I mean? Me personally, the Nets not going. The next thing that could happen outside of seeing the entertainment championship is the Knicks not winning. You know, people think that Mikal Bridges. I'm gonna do a song just the way that what's his name? J. Cole did the song Let Nas Down. I'm gonna do a song called Let Mellow Down. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna talk about how McCaffrey just let Mellow down in that last game versus the Celtics. You know what I mean?
That was funny when I seen that.
Word, you know what I'm saying? So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the fumble because he always do this celebration, but when it came down to him making a big shot, he fumbled the ball. I just think it's hilarious. You know what I mean? So I won't get into the my playoff predictions first because I'm being petty. I'm obviously being petty. You know what I mean? I want to go to PSPN because we was talking earlier. We was talking about just how it's even going to shape out. You know what I'm saying? We can talk about the West first. Y'all know the West is a mess. The wild mess West or whatever
Yeah.
you the Wild West mess. You know what I mean? So I figure we start with the West and bring it to the East. We're gonna go to PSPN first. You know what I'm saying? Let's start with the obvious elephant in the room with Mike Malone getting fired with the Denver Nuggets, the head coach, and them being in the fourth seed. They look like they might have home court advantage. We don't know. You out there in Denver, PSPN. What's the energy out there, bro? Talk to us.
Well, first and foremost, you got to call him Michael Malone. He doesn't like Mike. He gets offended. His feathers get ruffled when you call him Mike Malone. That's first and foremost. Second of all, that was crazy. I mean, didn't see that coming. Nobody saw that coming. And I think that who knows what's going to happen in the fallout with everything. Like it's really crazy that 3 games left in the season. This dude gets fired. He won a championship a couple years ago. And that's just the trend that's going on inside of sports right now. Well, basketball in general is, coaches are being hired to get fired. And, shameless plug right here, myself, Will, and another friend of ours, Dennis, we're doing a podcast in a couple days talking about that exact thing. But it's just crazy that, this dude gets fired. There's like no job security, like, I go to work every day and, I think I do my job to the best of my ability. And I've kind of brought a championship home in my right to the duck for the duck. And, hey, I could get fired tomorrow. That's how it is. It's crazy, man. But, going back to, what we were talking about, like kind of alluding to with the West looking all crazy from 4-8 right now is real spicy because in these next couple of games, like Denver could go from 4-8, Minnesota could go from 8-4. Like it's crazy. And the reason that that's huge is because you could go from possibly having home court advantage in the first round at that 4 slot to possibly fending for your life in the play-in at the 7 or 8 spot.
Let's slow it down. Who got the best? Let's look right now. Like who got the best home record out of these teams we talking about? The Minnesota Timberwolves, they what 23-16. The Denver Nuggets at home are 25-15. Um, I'm just trying to see who plays better at home. And it
Yeah,
looked like the Denver Nuggets, no, the Clippers is 30-11 at home, so they
yeah.
definitely want that home court advantage. You know what I'm saying?
That's a nice building that, Steve Ballmer built for them and they enjoy playing in it, obviously. So, I mean, it's crazy. And when you really look at the schedule, I was kind of looking at the schedule earlier. Minnesota is kind of in the best possible situation. They hold their own destiny in their hands. It's crazy because they've got Memphis tonight, I believe. And then they've got um, Brooklyn. They got the Nets. So, that's probably going to be a tough for them. And then after that, they got, I think, Utah. So if Minnesota can win out, like I said, they go from 8 to possibly 4. That's crazy. Like, never have we seen something with 3 games left in the season where it kind of shakes down to something like that, you know? So I think when the dust all settles, if Minnesota can get over the hump against Memphis, then they got a good chance of getting up to 4, maybe 5, because Denver also has to play Memphis too, and that's another big swing game. So tonight you got one major game that has like major implications, and that's that Memphis Minnesota game. But then tomorrow you got 5 games that got implications, and then on Sunday, the last game day of the season, you've got another 5 games that have major implications, all with the Lakers, the Warriors, the Rockets are involved in some of this, the Clippers. But basically, all of those teams from 4 to 8 are kind of playing one another, with the exception of, I think, 2 teams have to play the Blazers, and then Minnesota, like I said, has Utah and then also Brooklyn on the schedule. So it's going to be down and dirty to figure out, exactly what happens and how everything shakes out. And that could be huge. Like, I know a team like, the Lakers are really watching to see what's going to shake out, because who they want to play in that number 6 spot in the first round. Would they rather have a team like the Clippers, or would they rather have a team like Minnesota instead of a team like Golden State or Denver? That could be
But
huge.
that's the interesting part. Yeah, y'all can subscribe to 300 pounds of sports knowledge right here. That's the interesting part to me, because the two teams in the West that have the best home record are the Lakers, the Clippers, and then right there the Houston Rockets. Excuse me, OKC, OKC. But just for the 4 to 8 conversation, I was trying to get to more so. So you can obviously see OKC, they gonna have home. So I ain't really talking about that. But interestingly enough, the Houston Rockets is close too, but I don't think they in this conversation either. I think they got home court advantage, them being second seed. But PSPN, what I'm asking you is, like, who do you think, in just your opinion, not just looking at the numbers, just watching the game, who do you think is in more in danger on the road? Like, if they don't get home court advantage, they cook.
I mean, the Clippers for certain, they got to figure out a way. The record shows it, 18 and 21 on the road. That's not something they really want to face. I think the only thing that might work in their favor is maybe if they fall down to the 6th seed, because then technically, well, no, I'm sorry, they got a new building now. I correct myself. I was going to say technically it wouldn't be a road game. But yeah, like I said, they got a new building now, so I'll throw that out the window. I mean, they probably have to have the number 4 seed, I think, more than anybody. Denver, they probably want that number 4 seed also, with all the turmoil that's going on. But I think the main thing more is over that home court. I think is who's going to get into that playing, because now you're making your road a little bit dicier, where you got to put extra miles on the team. And if you're looking at a younger team like Memphis and Minnesota, maybe they can get over that hump a little bit easier than a veteran team like Golden State or Denver. They don't need any extra games being played if they want to make a deep run into the playoffs.
I don't know what you think, Will. How you feel about it?
I'm looking at it like this. I mean, I'm not even throwing the Lakers out of the mix. I mean, the Lakers could slide down themselves. I listen. I think this is like the ultimate crapshoot, if you will, because to Mark's point, you want to avoid that playing, and not just because it's a one and done scenario. I'm looking at it like this. You look at Dallas. Dallas got in. Who's to say AD doesn't go off? I mean, I know that they don't have Kyrie, and do you want to be in a scenario where you could possibly be one and done against AD? If he goes off, you never know about injuries from having to play the additional game. So I'm with you right there, trying to avoid it. I look at it like this: all of these teams, there's no clear cut favorite, and I think this is what the NBA is really going for. It's all about who you match up well with and who you can possibly avoid. I'm looking at it right now. I think Denver and the Lakers want to avoid each other early on. So I mean, if the standings stay the way that they are, they wouldn't have to see each other until possibly both of them get there to the Western Conference Finals. I'm looking at a potential Rockets Lakers second round series right now, which could be very interesting because the Rockets under Ime Udoka is kind of like, you know what, they're kind of like those rebels without a cause, and they just want to go out there and like mess somebody's day up. So
So
that could be
let me ask you,
what's up.
which one is it? Amen or assault? Is it assault?
I think it's Amen.
It's amen.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's Swords on the one
You
of Detroit.
yeah,
But they
you think
both balling this year, man. Shout
you
out to
think
yeah.
them.
you think amen in the 4 game series could slow down Luca in that series?
Ain't nobody stopping Luca. I think for Houston, it would have to be some bully ball type mentality. You know what I'm saying? I'm taking it back to like the days of the Detroit Pistons. And like we've seen this Houston team be able to do it because we saw them recently when they faced Golden State and they got under Steph Curry's skin. The Doka was going at it with Steph and things like that. That's how Houston's gonna have to go out there and beat those teams. But I think I'm looking at it and I mean it's gonna be a straight up war of attrition because right now, I love the Denver Clippers matchup in favor of the Denver. If the season ended today, Lakers Grizzlies. If it were to play out like that right now, I think advantage Lakers. Golden State and Minnesota trying to get out of the play-in. I think it would be so important
But
to
hold on,
win.
let me ask you.
What's up?
Slowing it down. We could look at the schedules if you want.
Right.
Because you say Clippers and Denver. Who do you
Mm.
think at that 4th spot? And why does the Clippers why does the Nuggets have the 4th spot over the Clippers when they got the same record? They got the tiebreaker.
I would imagine they'd have to have the tiebreaker from the season series at this point.
They
I mean,
actually play each other.
oh,
They're on the schedule. That's like
Oh,
let's look at the schedule. It's crazy. I'm telling you, I was looking
yeah,
at
all right, yeah. Let's get to that. Yeah,
so I'm gonna pull it up real quick. Breeze, if you want to pull it up on a
yeah.
computer, but I'm
Which
gonna
one?
pull it
Which
up on my
schedule you want
phone.
me to pull up? Which one?
Just the next couple of days, because I'm telling you, the
Okay.
next if you look up, like I said, tonight it's one game with major implications, and that's that Memphis Minnesota game tonight.
and tomorrow you got Grizzlies Nuggets. You
Yep,
also have Rockets Lakers tomorrow night. You also have Clippers Kings.
yep.
This is all Friday night, and then
And then
Yeah.
Golden State's got to get that win against Portland too.
yeah, and then Sunday we're looking at Nuggets Rockets, Mavs
But hold
Grizzlies.
on. Before we go there, because if we call it, I just want to ask y'all because I'm trying to see who gonna get caught on home court advantage. This is serious
Yeah,
between Denver and the Clippers because it look
yeah.
like the Clippers can't win if they not at home, and that's how I'm calling it, especially versus a team like Denver. In
Well,
Denver,
Yeah,
I think correct me if I'm wrong, Pete, but I
but they
think
could
you told me
slip.
this about the air is different out there for the players.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's different for everything. I mean, when you first come out here and you just get a little active, you get a little shorter of breath. So that's definitely a thing. But I mean, I don't necessarily think the Clippers are a lock for 5 though. Like honestly, like it could get real dicey, especially with a lot of these teams playing each other. Like we're looking
mhm.
right here in the middle of the screen, Denver and Memphis. That's another huge game right there. Like
That's what I'm saying. Who you and Will got? Who y'all
like
got in that
Memphis,
Denver Memphis?
Memphis, Memphis. I think with the way how the schedule looks, they have the most to lose because they're playing Minnesota tonight. They're playing Denver, and then who are they playing their third game? Scroll to the next one, to the next date.
Okay, it's this Sunday.
Yeah, who's Memphis? Memphis has Dallas
Dallas.
on. Yeah, see, Memphis is they like
Denver play Houston.
If John Morant wants to play the finger gun game, he better bring his shooters out for real in those 3 games, man.
Well, I mean, with that said, I mean, who's to say? And I ain't even trying to say it to sound like bad, but I'm like, yo, who's to say that Ja won't get in trouble again by the NBA and like they possibly sit him down for a game? You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
with the grenade stuff. Yeah,
Listen, I'm just throwing it out there. You know what I'm saying? As far as the possibilities, but I'm looking at it like this. I mean, with the Clippers, the home court advantage is. I agree with you, is going to be important, but I think it's going to be moot because we already know it's that time of the year that James Harden, we're going to find him on the side of a milk carton because he's going to be missing. You know what I'm saying? We all know it. Like I mean, we've seen enough
Mm.
of this for like more than a decade to know that brother disappears in the postseason when the chips get pushed to the middle of the table. I think I think Denver I think they're going to be a little bit more motivated right now because it's like even though Mike Malone was the head coach, that when they won that championship, it didn't sound like too many guys were like sad to see him go. You
No.
know, one of those type things, and it's unfortunate. But nonetheless, I think they got a little bit more motivation right there, right now. Let's see how far that can carry them. I'm not like going to go out there and put some money down on the Nuggets to win the title. No, but I really want to see how that carries them right there. Golden State, to me, I think is a wild card in this because the Jimmy Butler factor. Because Jimmy Butler in the playoffs is kind of like Popeye, after his spinach, and he locks on the other team's best defender. And I'll tell you like this. I've said this before, and I'll say it again right now. Playoff time, Jimmy Butler's like the gooch from Different Strokes. He just goes out there and punks people and takes their lunch money. So I mean, you got him, and you got Steph Curry. You can go off at any point. Yo, Golden State's gonna be a tough out, man.
Yeah.
Not for sure. And that's why I think that it's important for them to position themselves in that top six somehow because, you know, you're talking about Draymond, I think he's probably about 35, 36, something like that. Jimmy Butler, same thing. Steph's probably 36, 37. You know what I mean? So your top three dudes are older. So you got to get them as much rest as possible. You don't want them battling some young Thundercats out there in either Sacramento or Dallas. Dallas besides AD's got a lot of young guys out there, so you don't want them running around exerting energy that they don't necessarily have to. You want them kind of getting rested up and waiting for the opportunity to take that short trip from the Bay to LA and deal with the Lakers in that first round. That's what you really want, ideally, or maybe even get up to the fifth spot, and maybe if your luck is works out, maybe you deal with the Clippers. That would probably be the best scenario for them because they've owned the Clippers for years. Doesn't matter who's coaching the Clippers or who's wearing the Clippers uniforms. The Warriors have owned them for years.
That's I want to ask Will and Pete second, and then I'll go last. How y'all feel about the narrative of you know both Curry and LeBron chasing that fifth championship? And do the fans win seeing them in the first round? Or do we need to see them in the conference finals as fans will? Or do what you because me, I'm saying that to say I want to see them in the first round. I don't need to see them in the conference finals. See who's going to go on that road to the fifth championship in the first round. Don't make me wait all the way to the conference finals because that looked like it could happen too. Is
I mean,
how plausible will how plausible is a Golden State Warriors Lakers first round?
I think it's very possible. On top of that, as a fan, I wouldn't have a problem with it because it's like you're talking about two of the greatest players of this era, two of the greatest players of all time going at it. I think the networks would have a problem with it because you want to try to delay that as much as possible to possibly get LeBron and Curry going at it in the Western Conference Finals. Clearly, that probably is not going to happen. But nonetheless, I think it's still going to be, very, very interesting to see them possibly go at it. And I think the cherry on top of all of that is, seeing Luca, Doncic with the Lakers in the playoffs because it's one of those. I think last night was a preview of what we're going to possibly see from Luca because this guy has a chip on his shoulder. Clearly, didn't want to get traded from Dallas. Aside from the trade, look how much bread he got was left on the table because he can't get that super max extension now that he got traded from Dallas to LA. I think he's got something to prove, and it's a series where the stars are out. Because you have LeBron, you have Luca, clearly you got Steph, and like I said, Jimmy Butler is a different animal, and I don't think the basketball fans give Jimmy Butler a lot of credit because they know he's real. The casual fan may not. I'll tell you like this: the folks in Philadelphia would love to have still had Jimmy Butler around as opposed to Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons. And you know what I'm talking about right there. So, you know what I'm saying? So, but nonetheless, I mean, like the networks, to answer it like quickly, the networks would definitely love to see that push to the Western Conference Finals. It's kind of like them wanting to see the Lakers and Celtics, you know what I'm saying, in the
Yeah.
finals. That's my thoughts, man.
I mean, yeah, I'll give you true. They probably want to prolong it, but get the fans want that, And my thing is, they don't have to compromise their integrity and put entertainment and trying to control everything. Just let them go at it that first round. The ratings will be through the roof. And to the point, as a business model, you don't want to give these teams that don't have an NBA championship a crack at it too. You think about OKC, they'd be their first one. Think about the Clippers, it'd be their first one. Let's see if they can stay in contention because you can't just always have the same business model and just the Lakers win it or the Celtics win it. Like, not.
Well, just to jump in real quick, and I told you I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I blame the big boys at the table for that, and I'm talking about the big networks, and I've talked about this on my channel as well, and I think it's an issue. I mean, we have an OKC team right now that's 66-14. If I doubt they're still going to play the guys the rest of the way, but you're talking about a team that could possibly be 67 or 68 and 14 at the end of the season, and we're not talking about them, and that's a doggone shame because everything from the big boys, that cover the NBA, it's all LeBron, it's all Steph Curry, but I'm like, we got to give these guys love. You look at what Cleveland's doing this year. I think just switching to the East real quick, what the Detroit Pistons have done under JB Bickerstaff has not gotten romanticized enough. You're talking about they tripled their win total, but the media don't talk about them. And it's the same thing with, like, you posted it right here. Look at the Cavs. The Cavs are already a good team under Bickerstaff last year. They're even better now with Kenny Atkinson. Nobody's talking about it. You got the Boston Celtics. They got a legit chance to run it back. They're about to win 60 games. Ain't nobody talking about them because too much of the focus, by the big boys at the table that are supposedly covering the sport, it's LeBron and Curry all the time. Listen, SGA is probably going to be your MVP this year. Nobody's talking about him. Let's talk about the fact that how the Joker is basically averaging a triple-double this year. But again, the big guys at the table don't talk about that, and to me, that's the problem.
And I feel you. I mean, again, we talk about it on our channels. Subscribe to our channels, man. Subscribe to 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge, to Big Fan Breezy, to PSPN's The Kitchen Sink, man. We out here. But, since we're in the Eastern Conference, again, let's talk about it, man, because it's hard to say what the matchups are going to be. We still ain't get to that part of the show yet, but again, man, I would say that the Pistons and them having all of those draft picks, all of that draft capital for them to finally be a good team. You know what I'm saying? With the Brooklyn Nets going in that direction, it's like, oh, I see the process. You know what I mean? Tobias Harris looked like he fits there. You know what I mean? And some of that being a fit, but them being where they at, I think they kind of lock at 6. I don't think they get 5. You know what I'm saying? I don't. I think they 6-3 matchup is looking like the Pistons versus the Knicks. How you feel about that, P? You think it's the Knicks versus the Pistons?
Hold on, Breezy. Let me just jump in real quick, and I'll just turn right back to you.
Yeah.
They definitely gonna be locked into that. And guess what? The Pistons just beat the Knicks again, as we're talking right now.
Wow. Right now, as we
115 to 106 is the final. I just wanted to jump in with that.
No, I appreciate that. Man. That's always welcome here. Any pettiness towards the Knicks, you're welcome. You're all welcome.
But Joe, I think they like that matchup better than they like the matchup against Indy, because in the matchup against Indy, they've struggled. Indy has gotten the better of them a few times this season, especially with being in division rivals. So I think they like that matchup against the Knicks better. I'm not necessarily saying they can win that matchup against the Knicks, but I think they give the Knicks everything that they can handle, and they don't want it. And Tibbs got those dudes running out there 42, 43 minutes a game in these playoff games. I guarantee it.
Yeah. You heard what McCall say? He's like, yo, let the rookies play. Then they made him walk it back. Like, nah, what I meant was, these guys, what I meant to say was, what had happened was, like, bruh, that shit is ridiculous. And if you don't, again, Jordy Fernandez, he run a 10-man rotation. A lot of times, good coaches are notoriously known for running an 8 to 9, maybe a 10-man rotation. And Tibbs looked like he run a 6-man rotation.
6, 7,
maybe, yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, and they playing heavy minutes, like you said. I think if anybody put Mikal Bridges, the Iron Man, for 8 years to the test.
And he said something about it. Like, he ain't never complained about nothing. He played all the minutes. He don't care. And now all of a sudden this dude is saying, hey, well, I did talk to him. And like, I think I said this on Will on one of your shows. If you got Tibbs now at the end of it saying, oh, we need to have this conversation, it's like, wait, what? That I don't know, man. Tibbs is, I think that's a whole different story, but I really think that leading to another show we do it next week, but I think that Tibbs' job may be on the line depending on how they look in the playoffs this year.
Listen,
give me more,
especially with Queens native Michael Malone now available.
Listen.
Okay. I didn't know that. I didn't know he was a Queens native.
Yes, sir.
Long Island City, man. Not Long Island City. Astoria.
Yeah. Astoria. Oh, you talking about 7 train?
Yeah. 7 on the end. Take your pick, man.
So Tibbs might be that fire that might be starting to rise underneath that seat a little.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you like this. I'm not gonna say that the Knicks are gonna lose that series against the Pistons if that's who they play in round number 1. But I think at the end of that series, Brunson and Josh Hart, they're gonna look like Jimmy Butler, during the bubble finals when that dude basically leaned over the scorer's table, because he was out of gas. And I mean, just like I talked about with James Harden earlier, it's the same old thing with James Harden every year in the playoffs. It's the same old thing with Thibodeau's teams. It's like he doesn't use his bench, and then by the time the playoffs run around, what happens? His guys are they out of gas, literally. You know what I'm saying? Like they have nothing left, and I think it's going to be just like how it was last year. You go back to round number 2, the Knicks played the Pacers. Those young boys ran the Knicks off the court. Detroit has got a lot of fresh bodies, and we talked about dudes not like really caring with the Rockets. Yo, imagine a dude like Isaiah Thomas. I'm not Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Stewart going out there and banging with Karl Anthony Towns. Cat is not a physical guy.
Pain.
And
I
then,
predict pain.
And then, Isaiah Stewart is like one of those dudes, he don't care. It's like, what? Whatever it takes. Listen, I'll take the technical. I'll take the L for the team, if it means us coming out on top. So it's one of those where, the Knicks better pack a lunch.
Like PJ Tucker on KD type shit.
Pretty much.
Like, did you see this?
Draymond Green headlock Rudy Gobert
a couple of weeks ago? Grabbing people up and assaulting dudes' manhoods, man. Like, this dude's just vicious, man.
Listen, that dude. Listen, that dude was out there like homeboy from White Man Can't Jump, Raymond, who really was Marcus Johnson. You know what I mean? Yeah. But still, like out there on the court, he's playing some real bully ball, man. So that's what I'm saying. Like, the Knicks. I think the Knicks are in trouble in that series.
I think they get through the series. Like I said, I think they get through it, but I think it's going to be a tough, physical 6 or 7 game series. Like, I think Detroit easily can take it to 6, and
I think it goes
very
7.
Good chance 7.
I think it goes 7.
Yeah, but I think the Knicks pull that win out in that series, and then looking at Indiana and Milwaukee, I think that right there, I think that series, and y'all may think I'm a little crazy here, but I think that series all comes down to Kyle Kuzma, man. I really do. I think if that dude can find a way to play like he was, looked upon that he would be that guy one day, like, I think if he can find that for a whole series, or at least piece it together in 4 or 5 games in the series, then they can get over that hump and knock off Indiana. But I don't think it's going to happen, and I think Indiana wins that series, and I think that makes Giannis even more frustrated, and then Milwaukee's got a whole nother shitstorm to deal with appeasing him somehow.
Well, especially if Dame is hurt, because if Dame is hurt, if he's not 100%, it's going to be just like how it was last year when they got run off the floor by Indiana in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and my thing is, Good for them. He shouldn't have let Kyrie stepped on his foot. They had bad karma in the playoffs. After that, they giving us a draft pick, gonna be part of a championship roster, in my opinion. And on top of that, as far as him coming to here, I say no bueno, but we can keep it with the playoffs right now. And yeah, man, I got no love for the Bucks. All of the bad stuff that can happen to the Bucks, I hope it happens to them.
I hate it. I hated Chappelle.
Word up, man. So that's how I feel about the Bucks. I want the Pacers to beat them in the first round, and I want the Pistons to, at minimum, take the Knicks to 7 games. Because if Tibbs is playing heavy minutes with them like that in the regular season, and they gotta play 7 games in that first round, they're gonna have nothing in the tank to play in that second round, and they're gonna lose in that second round. And bring some joy to my net fan heart. You know what I'm saying? But shout out to Jay. He said it was fan appreciation night at the Clays. We deserve more. Jay said the Pistons will beat the Knicks. That's a see. Right. You heard it here first.
It definitely is a strong possibility. And you know what I really like about that Detroit team, man, is that they really are like a all across the board even kill kind of team. Like there's no hero. Obviously, Cade Cunningham is the engine that runs the whole operation.
Of course.
But
absolutely,
if you look across the board, like they kind of remind me of a really good veteran college team that has like 5 or 6 solid players. This dude's averaging 11.6, and this dude's averaging 14.2, and this dude's averaging 13.7. Like they got a lot of dudes like that, and that's what I really like about how they're built.
Listen, it's one of those, man. Certain teams, they have to win to the identity of their franchise. You look at the New York Giants. They've never done it with a flashy quarterback. They've built, whenever they won, they always built the team around the conditions at the Meadowlands. You look at the Detroit Pistons. Anytime that they've won, it's always been with a gritty team that embodies Detroit. Detroit's a very gritty city, all right? And you think about it with Isaiah's Pistons. They weren't pretty, but they won. You think about Chauncey Billups and Rasheed and Rip and those guys. It wasn't pretty, but they won. It's the same thing with this Detroit team. It's not pretty, but like you said, Mark, they gel together, and then they just go out there, and it's not roughhouse basketball to the point where it was 35 years ago with the Bad Boys. No, but it's one of those where when you play the Pistons, you're gonna know that you're on the court with those dudes, and that's why I think if anybody other than JB Bickerstaff gets Coach of the Year this year, I know, the job that Mark Dagnall has done with OKC, same thing with Kenny Atkinson with Cleveland. But both of those teams were expected to be playoff teams. Right. We're talking about a Detroit team that won 14 games last year. They haven't had a winning record in a month of Sundays. Okay. We're not even talking about a playoff series. They haven't won a playoff game since Chauncey Billups was there. All right. And we're talking about this team has now more than tripled their win total from last season. They're not even going to the play-in. They're going to the playoffs. So I'm like, yo, that brother's got to get some love for what he's done. And I'm looking at this Pistons team. I ain't trying to sound like a broken record, but yo, the Knicks better pack a lunch. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Me personally, I like the fact that they stuck with the #1 draft pick in the Cade Cunningham. And the Knicks didn't. They gave up on R.J. Barrett. They traded him to the Toronto Raptors. They don't care, and they deserve to lose. Nah, but seriously, I like Cade Cunningham, and a franchise actually invested in a draft pick. That's the direction of what the trajectory of what the Nets got going on. And I want to, and I'm looking at the Pistons and seeing that's exactly what they did with Cade Cunningham. I mean, he was the #1 pick, you know what I'm saying? But he went through injuries. So, they could have gave up on him, but they didn't, you know what I mean? They decided to keep him, and he's playing great right now. But, just realistically, without being salty about the Knicks or whatnot, Yeah, I really think that Detroit got a shot. I think the advantage for the Knicks is the obvious home court advantage. They the ones who benefit the most probably in this whole situation with the home court advantage.
I was sorry, go ahead, bro.
Now let me see. I'm just trying to look at the record real quick. Will so they 27-13
Yeah, they
on at
solid on the
home.
road. They solid on the road. 23 and
Yeah, they
16.
solid
I
too.
mean, that's not nothing to sneeze at all. Especially when you look down, whoever is gonna come out of that 4 and 5 spot. They both 19 and 20 on the road. So they
What's
definitely
the
got a leg up. That's honestly the difference when you look at that. When you really look at the numbers, and that's why I love looking at the numbers with stuff. That's the difference between the Knicks getting that 3 spot and the Pacers and the Bucks, struggling for 4 and 5 because that road record. Like that's the difference right there, and those spots. Like I said, inside the numbers is always my favorite thing to really break down and look at stuff like that and really see the difference in everything.
And
But
Breeze, that's what I was about to say, and you just put up the graphic. You know, the Pistons are 3-1
yeah.
against the Knicks this year.
Wow, I thought it
yeah.
was 2-2. Wow.
They
Yeah.
beat them 2 times at the Garden.
Wow.
So I don't
Mm,
think Detroit's gonna go out there and be phased and like, oh, this is the Garden and this is a Knicks and you got, Celebrity Row, this, that, and the third. I'm like, listen, they out there to hoop, man.
This
And
this might be their worst nightmare, man.
that's what I'm
yeah,
saying, man. That's what I'm saying.
Sheesh.
Because sometimes, when it comes to the playoffs, it's not about who you play, but it's about who you don't play.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's like you have a matchup that simply does not work in your favor. You could ask the 2007 Mavericks about that when they won 67 games and then they got sent home in the first round by Golden State that year. So
yeah,
like sometimes a
Mhm.
matchup just simply does not work in your favor. This ain't a matchup that works in the favor of the Knicks, man.
yeah, yeah. When you say that, I just could think of how Jalen Brunson, under pressure from the tall 6'7" Cade Cunningham, towering over his little body. Give me the ball in the post, little man. Mouse in the house. They can't do nothing about it. Cat, he don't want to get in foul trouble. Cat get in foul trouble, it's over. They on too much thin ice. They don't have no paint presence on the defensive side of the ball because Cat don't want to get in foul trouble because they changed the identity from a defensive team to an offensive team. So
And
I think
Bree,
the Knicks to y'all point, and I didn't really realize that they were that the Pistons were 3-1 versus the Knicks neither, and that's why I just checked. I wasn't sure of that, but it might be Pistons in 6. It
and
might be Pistons in 6 because I know the Pistons going to do their best, and y'all competitive. Y'all know sports too. They don't want to make the 7 going back to the Garden. So if the
and
Pistons
No.
win it, I think they do it in 6. I don't think they win that game 7 in the Garden if it happened. I do think they win in 6 though. I do.
and Breeze, to your point, you talked about Cat, and this is something I mentioned when the trade went down. Like I said, Cat was going to put up his numbers during the regular season. The problem is going to be playoffs because his numbers throughout his career have gone down in the playoffs. And I
Hmm.
said this, you can get away with that in Minneapolis, but when you're an all-star player and you get traded to New York, regardless of the sport, the people there don't care what you did, prior to you coming to New York City. They want to see you deliver. And Cat's not a guy that's really going to be extra aggressive, in the postseason. Minnesota got to the Western Conference Finals last year off the strength of Ant-Man and what Ant-Man was doing, not only scoring, but then also what he was doing defensively, especially against guys like KD. You know what I mean? So it's one of those where if Cat don't deliver, listen, it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot of upset people in the Big Apple. If the Knicks go out early, man. That's all I'm saying.
He's gonna be changing his voice a lot, trying to run away and hide from people. One minute he's gonna have that manly voice, and the other time he's gonna have that voice changer voice. Man, what was that
Mhm.
about? That was crazy.
Well, I mean, like, I ain't trying to like hog this or whatever like that, but I said this. I said the Knicks were in trouble, in my opinion, a couple of weeks ago with that whole thing, with that foolishness when Draymond had to open his mouth unnecessarily on his
Yeah,
podcast about Cat, and then we saw all the Knick fans, I mean not Knick fans, Knick players dapping up Draymond after the game, and that was the same game that him and Cat had to be separated in.
Yep.
And I'm like, hold up, we supposed to be teammates. You know what I'm saying? You riding with this dude like we had a family reunion or something like that.
So
But
hold on. Let me ask y'all this: do you think the Knicks would duck smoke, lose on purpose to avoid Detroit? Because they,
nah,
because if they keep losing, it might not be them in the third seed. They might be the fourth seed, and the Pacers might be the
I think
third
if
seed.
they decide to make that chump move, they not doing it to duck Detroit. I think they doing it to duck the Celtics in the
In the
second
second
round.
round.
That's what I believe, because
Okay, but they ducking for sure.
they got no chance against the Celtics. Like that's a gentleman. That's a
Yeah, no, I
gentleman's
think it
sweep.
was a sweep. I think it was a sweep.
Well, no, I say a gentleman's sweep, and I'm giving them that one game by just like
No,
grit
I'm
and
just saying in the regular
determination pulling
season.
out. Oh,
I,
okay, yeah.
yeah, it might have been a sweep. And
Yeah, no, it was. It was absolutely a sweep. It was absolutely a sweep.
You know
But
how y'all was talking about P. You know how you was talking about matchups, this and that. And again, I just think it's interesting that they built their team with OG and McCall to be wings that could stop Tatum and Brown, and they got swept. It's just poetic.
but those dudes, if you think about it, like idealistically, yeah, they can stop them. But here's the problem that I think, and a lot of people may not look at it this way, but like Anunoby, in my opinion, can't really do much with Tatum, but he can do a little bit better with Brown. But you would want him to ideally be the one on Tatum, whereas it's kind of flip-flop, basically what I'm saying. Like Bridges is the one that you would expect to be able to hold Brown down, but they body type wise, they want him to hold Tatum down, but he can't. It's just it's backwards. Like if maybe their makeups physically was switched, or their makeups mentally was switched, then ideally it would work out for them. But it's not, because it's just kind of weird. Like McCall is just a different kind of dude. And OG, OG is a dog. Like absolutely, he's a dog. But I don't know, man. It's just something off there with the makeup of that team, and the fact that they can't really do anything else. Like they're kind of like tied, so to speak, because they don't have flexibility cap wise. They definitely don't have any type of draft assets. So they're stuck with what they're stuck with. And it's not going to be enough to get them over the hump. And anytime I talk to a delusional Knicks fan, I try to get them to realize that particular thing. Like, hey, if this is the best y'all got, it's a second round exit. And why are y'all like, y'all are handicapped. Y'all have nothing else, like no draft assets, no cap flexibility, like nothing. It's crazy. So I think they're trying to avoid Boston if they do lose. That's basically what I was trying to say there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, they look cooked, man. I'll say that, you know what I mean. But we spoke on
they plus 20 though, man. They're 20 games over 500. You can't say they cooked.
Yeah, but they 0-9 versus the really good teams.
Oh yeah, they can't beat anybody that's any good. Like they feast on the bottom feeders, so to speak, and then when they have to play competition that is to their level or above, they look terrible.
But that's the point. It's like they didn't build that team. I mean, they really got a dramatic team change. Like they changed the identity of that team to competing for a championship, and it versus the contending teams that won a championship, they fall short. You know what I'm saying? But those are two matchups that we discussed. But what about what would it be? The Celtics and Orlando Magic for the conversation of it. I mean, I don't think the Celtics sweep Orlando. If that's what it is, just looking at it right now, if that's what happens, well, I give Orlando a game, but I don't see them beating Celtics.
Well, I don't know if it might play out that way. I see that whole playoff thing. The play-in thing. Like honestly, man, out of them 4 teams down there, the team that I've got my eye on the most are the Bulls. I've liked how they've played down the stretch.
They 7-3 in their last 10.
I've liked how they played down the stretch, and I really think that something's clicked within that locker room. Like I finally think the young players have grown up. Like Kobe White's been playing really, really good. You know what I'm saying? I think they had to get the older 2 dudes out of there for them to really kind of blossom, man. Patrick Patrick Williams is really taking on a leadership role within that locker room. Like, I really like what they're doing. And I think that maybe they have a possibility to really, really push the needle out of those bottom four and maybe make some noise against, one of those top two teams in the playoffs. Like, I think they got a better chance of winning and stealing a game or two than
Okay.
anybody in that bottom four.
Yeah, nah, I feel you. Shit, the chat talking about champions. They talking about Boston versus Thunder. Y'all got motion with that. How y'all feel about that, P and Will?
I mean, that right there, I think Boston comes out of the East. Like, I definitely think that's going to be a thing. Like, I think Cleveland is much improved, but, like Boston, just the way they're built there, I think they're built for the postseason and a long postseason run. I think that their record is not necessarily indicative of who they are. I think they got bored in a lot of the games. If you watched a lot of the games that they played, like they just really weren't out there playing. Like they're giving major minutes to, guys like Peyton Pritchard and, I can't remember this other guy's name off the bench,
Cornette,
but yeah, yeah. No, 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 not him. What's the other guy, man? Like 89 or something like that. 88. He's got a
Hauser,
wild number, but no, he
Hauser.
gets minutes too. He gets minutes
Okay.
too. But my point is like they were bored in the regular season. And I think once the playoffs begin, they're gonna ramp things up. They're gonna hit that other gear. You gotta think about it. They've made deep playoff runs in the last three seasons. And if you go back to even when, they had different cast of characters, Tatum, Brown still on that team, Horford on that team, they were making deep playoff runs with guys like Kyrie and stuff like that. So this is a veteran team. They got top players. And
Derek White.
I think Jason Tatum is going to be on a mission this postseason to have people finally put respect on his name because he's tired of being overlooked. He's overlooked even on his own team, with a lot of people saying that Brown is the one and he's the two. I think this is the postseason that he really puts his stamp on this team, and I think he dominates this postseason.
Mm. This is interesting because I know that the Cavaliers when they got that got Hunter for Tatum. They feel like Hunter Mobley and Jared Allen could slow Tatum down. Do you think that's the Cavaliers got something to say about the Celtics getting to the finals? Will, how you feel about Cavs beating the Celtics? Is it possible?
Um, I think they'll be in the mix, but I don't see so. I mean, as long as Boston is healthy, and I think the key for the Celtics is keeping Porzingis healthy. And I think if you're Boston and you could keep Porzingis healthy for the next 2.5 months, they're going to be taking that Larry O'Brien trophy home for the 19th time. It's one of those where I think the Celtics know that this might be it for this group. And I'm saying it from the standpoint that, okay, we just had an ownership change. Mark and I have talked about this. Shrewd move by Wick Grousbeck to exit stage right before that big bill comes in with that second tax apron. Because this is an expensive team. You think about Drew Holiday's contract, Porzingis' contract, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. So they know that there's a possibility that somebody could get moved after this year. And Drew Holiday has been key for that, or was key for that Celtics championship, kind of like how he was when he went to Milwaukee, because we're talking about a guy who is a legitimate point guard, not somebody who's listed at the point guard position, a legit point guard. And guys can talk about this positionless basketball all you want. You still need a floor general out there. Drew Holiday is that guy. On top of that, Drew Holiday plays D. And then you talk about Porzingis. He can play the post. He can hit the mid-range shot. He can hit the outside shot. He can pass. He can defend. He can rebound. He changes the entire scope when he's on the court. And then, of course, that gives Boston more depth. Why? Because now you put Horford on the bench, which makes your bench stronger. And of course, with all of these guys, it sets up guys like Derek White for open shots. It sets up guys like Peyton Pritchard for open shots, not to mention what Brown and Tatum are going to do. So at the end of the day, as long as Boston is healthy, I don't see anybody in the East getting past them. You know what I'm saying? Not even Cleveland.
Yeah, a tough. It'll be a tough series, but Boston will definitely pull it out. It might take seven. Cleveland might really play hard, and I think that what they have any chance on winning, or how they would have any chance on winning, is really focusing on their bigs and not Donovan Mitchell and Garland. Like, they got to put the attention. Mitchell and Garland are two smaller guards, whereas now you got Drew Holiday, big guard at 6'6", locking one of those dudes down, and then Garland, not really much of a defender, but you can now rotate maybe one of those quality wing defenders that they have, because they got a couple of quality wing defenders to maybe slow down, Garland. So my point being there is, like, Cleveland really has to load up in the paint, and they really have to focus a huge emphasis on Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, because Boston really doesn't have the size to deal with that. And I say that with Porzingis, being 7'3", but he's a different kind of 7'3" kind of cat. He can't really deal with those two dudes in the paint. Right. So and they gotta force Tatum to guard one of those two dudes, like, to get him in foul trouble. Like, that's the only way that Cleveland really has a shot at really making that a 7-game series, or even winning it. But I think Boston probably will win that in 6.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to finagle a way that the Cavs could beat the Celtics, but I don't really see it. They would have to, on a regular basis, have Porzingis come out to the paint. Mobley, Porzingis come out the paint. Mobley will have to be a 3-point threat the entire series. You got to bring
That's
Porzingis
not
out
happening.
and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mobley, I would say he could knock it down, but to say that the defense got to either press or sag off, they're gonna sag off, bro. Like, you gonna knock down maybe 1 or 2, but this the playoffs. Like, you're not fitting in. He would have to be shooting at a high clip. It's just too many moving parts. I don't see the Cavs beating them in the series. But what I did want to ask you guys,
my theory, Breeze, on two small guards. It never works.
Yeah,
not unless you're going back to the Bad Boy Pistons. That's the last time that dynamic has really worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember I used to like Francis and Catino Mobley, but they was, I guess you would consider a small backcourt, but they was good. They was good.
Hold up. The only other time that I could think of it working, and the head coach wasn't smart enough to keep them in together, was when you had Bobby Jackson and Mike Bibby with the Kings. Yeah. And when they faced the Lakers in the playoffs, they were giving the Lakers fits, because Kobe and Derek Fisher and those guys, they were too big, they were too small or too big to guard those guys, and they would run around them. And then, of course, Rick Adelman will want to go back to Pager, and Stojakovic, if his shot wasn't there, advantage Lakers. But yeah, I'm with you on that.
So let me ask y'all, right? Just for the sake of the fans, we start Will, then go to Pete, then get back to me. If y'all could see, in many as y'all want in the playoffs, if we could get Game 7 series, which series y'all want to see go to Game 7? In the outcome, we'll start with Will, and then I'll go last.
Wow. For me, I gotta say, looking, at the possibilities, and that I'd love to see, maybe Rockets Lakers, if they meet up in the second round in a Game 7. Maybe if it was Lakers Warriors possibly in round 1, I like to see a scenario like that. Or maybe, if it was Lakers Timberwolves, in round 1, I like to see that possibility as well. Just throwing a couple out there.
And what about Ant-Man versus Luka? Who y'all think the better player, Ant-Man or Luka?
Oh, Luka by far is definitely the better player. I mean, no comparison there. Ant is definitely a phenomenal player, but Luka just is dynamic in so many different levels. But getting back to the 7-game series question, I think the Knicks and the Pistons, for sure, that series has a 95% chance, in my opinion, of going 7 games. And I also think that Indiana-Milwaukee series could be interesting. Like I said, if Kyle Kuzma can really step up to the plate and really be the X factor in that series, I think that series has a chance to go 7 games, and I think it can go. Be a really interesting and entertaining series. As far
Okay.
as in the East, that's all I think could possibly go 7. I mean, maybe that Cleveland Celtics series in the Eastern Conference Finals. I would love to see that go 7, but I don't see it happening. Whoever Cleveland is going to play in the second round, I don't see that series going 7. I don't see the series with Boston going 7 against either the Knicks or the Pistons. So moving on to the West, man, that I think whoever ends up 4-5, I think there's a very good chance that we see a 7-game series in that first round. I think there's a very good chance we see 7-game series with both 4-5 matchups because
Is Westbrook on Denver?
yeah,
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 Okay.
and he's part of the problem between Calvin
Malone.
Booth and
Yeah,
Malone. He was a big part of the problem. They were arguing over
What
his
see
minutes.
you out there? What did you hear? Cause I
They,
heard something, but I'm
they
not.
were arguing over his minutes basically. Like Booth wanted Malone to play the younger guys more. And Malone is, a veteran coach, and he trusted his veteran guys more than he did the younger guys. So, the first major problem that I actually heard goes back a couple of years over Christian Braun. That was the first time that they had like a verbal Royal Rumble, so to speak, where it got to the point where things were said and, you know, no pleasantries were exchanged after to kind of smooth the mood, so to speak. Because again, Malone didn't want Brown to play, and Booth is like, yo, we drafted this dude in the first round. He comes from, championship stock. Like, we need to play this guy. And, they got into it over that. And eventually, Brown wound up in the rotation. If you realize, if you remember, he was in the rotation his rookie year in the playoffs. That's when he kind of first started to crack the rotation.
Yeah,
So,
they was trying to act like he was gonna be Bruce Brown replacement. He ain't that good. He alright, but he ain't that
no, I mean, he's a solid player. Like, he
good. Yeah.
so I heard a very interesting thing earlier, and it's just something like from football and NFL, but you can apply this to any sport when it comes to a first round draft pick. So many times people look at a first round draft pick, like a team's first round draft pick, to be the savior, and a lot of times it is. If you're picking, 1, 2, maybe even possibly 3, you possibly need that person depending on the position that they play or whatever. You need them to be the savior of your franchise, or one of the major pieces to be the savior of your franchise. But this person, and I can't remember who it was. I was watching Colin Cowherd actually, and it was a guest on there, and he actually said, "Look, if you are drafting in the top 15 or 20, and it's not one of those top 3 picks. So let's say if you're 4 or you're 7 or 11 or wherever you're picking in that way, all you really want or can hope for is a solid, productive pro. And what I mean by that is not a dude that's going to just go out there and in basketball terms, just put up 2.8 points per game to play solid defense. You want a dude that's gonna be a Detroit Piston kind of dude, like I was saying earlier, a dude that's gonna give you 12.6 points or 14.2 points or something like that. You want a dude like that. That's all you can truly ask for out of a first round pick. That's not a top 3 dude.
Okay.
I mean, listen, I mean, with that, I mean, sometimes it works out because just like in football, guys who should have been drafted higher, they get, they fall down and it's no fault of theirs. The problem is some of these teams that are picking early are like, okay, let's go for the best player available when you got multiple needs. It's like, what's the point in drafting a guard, a point guard that is, just because he's the best player available, you already got a point guard. Some of these teams like they get caught up in that, and we see guys like fall down that really should have, been there a little bit earlier. And you could have, and then you could find that right dude, and of course, if he goes to the right team as well, somebody who's going to develop him, the rest is history. I think the year Giannis got drafted, I think Giannis was taken 15th overall. Nobody
Mhm.
was going to expected Giannis to become what he became. Jokic was a second round pick. Jimmy Butler, I think, was the last pick of the first round by the Bulls or
Mhm.
something like that. And it's like, we see what these guys, were able to blossom into. I think a lot of it, some of these teams, you know, like to your point, they expect guys to come in and be a savior right away, and it doesn't work like that. You know, bad seeds or good seeds rather will never grow in bad soil, and a lot of times these guys go to bad teams and bad organizations, and then what happens? They get caught up in the wash.
Yeah, it's a reason why certain teams are always at the top of the draft, and it's because they're always at the bottom of the standings.
Yeah,
So and
The
you
Charlotte
expect,
Hornets are the prime example of that, man.
yeah, and then you expect a 19-year-old kid to come and just change everything.
And
It's
see
unrealistic.
just switching gears real quick. That's why I hope a guy like Cooper Flag can avoid the Washington Wizards like the plague, man. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Because like the kid has potential, okay. But if you go to a team like the Wizards, it's like you're not gonna blossom the way you need to, man.
no, Wizards, Hornets, like those are teams. He would be better off in Utah because New Orleans is kind of, looking at the top the bottom four teams right now: New Orleans, Utah, um, Washington, and Charlotte. Like, what's the best possible scenario out of those teams? In my opinion, is Utah because they've got at least more of a winning culture out there. Like New Orleans is a joke. I thought they were, beginning to turn it around, but they're not going to turn it around. Like I think them getting rid of AD was kind of the death blow, and bringing Zion in, and putting all their eggs in that basket, so to speak, is definitely backfiring because the dude can't stay healthy, and as a result, the team is just getting worse and worse every year. It's a constant decline. Charlotte, Will, to your point, they suck every year. Washington, they suck every year. So if you're Cooper Flag, you're like, please God, let the ping pong balls bounce the Utah Jazz's way.
I throw a wild scenario out there. What if Philly gets that first pick?
Nasty work. If it and I say why,
Oh,
because they
man,
had been doing nothing with their high draft capital, and they got the most high draft capital. When you look at all of
yeah,
the teams that got worse records than us, and you look at what they did with their draft capital, I mean, the Pelicans wasn't able to win with AD and Drew Holiday on the same team.
the
When you think
process
about,
was a huge failure.
yeah, the 76ers, they had Embiid, they had Ben Simmons, they had Fultz,
Markel.
they had, that's three right there. They had and again to the point, because I can't remember all of the uh players that they did bad with their careers, is Atlanta came in with less time with Trey Young, to your
Hmm.
point, Will, about franchises, with less time with Trey Young, was able to do more than the 76ers did, like with they high draft pick in Trey Young. So my thing is, I'm not saying that the NBA intentionally gave the number one pick to Atlanta Hawks, but they could obviously see that they got more success giving high draft capital to the Atlanta Hawks than they do with the Philadelphia 76ers. You feel what I'm saying? So
Listen,
I,
listen,
I don't
listen.
want, yeah, I think the 76ers shouldn't get the number one pick. I think that's not, I cringe at the thought
Well, I
of it.
mean, they got
Well, I'll be
I think it's
honest.
a 10% chance or a 9.5% chance when you're sitting in the fifth spot,
Right.
well, the fifth lowest, I should say. Like it is the first spot. I forgot how the percentages play out, but basically the first four spots have the best chances. I think it's like 12 and a half for four, 15 for three, 17 and a half for two, and 20 for one, or something like that. But
Well,
like I said, I think that if you're Cooper Flag, you're just down on your knees praying that Utah gets that number one pick out of those four teams.
Well, I mean, listen, regardless of where he goes, he would sell tickets. I mean, if he went to Charlotte, you figure, a Duke kid, staying in the state of North Carolina. Um, for the case of Philly, honestly, I've talked about this before. Philly needs to blow that thing up. I think they should really just go forward and try to build around Tyrese Maxey. And just hypothetically speaking, I would like the combo of Tyrese Maxey and Cooper Flag. You would have something there. I knew Paul George was not going to work from the jump. We talked about that in Philly. I thought it was laughable with PG-13 going there. And B's never going to be healthy. You gotta, if you're Philly, you tried. You got to come to the realization you have to go in a different direction. So if they found a way, to get up to that number one pick and get yourself a Cooper Flag, yo, go for it, man. I mean, if I'm Cooper Flag and I'm looking at the top four teams right now in the draft, if it plays out like this, the only one that makes sense is Utah, to your point, Mark, because New Orleans, Charlotte, and Washington, that's where careers go to die.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's one of those where I know the NBA is trying like their hardest, like with this whole Euro League crap. I've been saying it for the longest time. I'm like, listen, it ain't working in New Orleans. It ain't working in Charlotte again. Washington's just there because they're a big market. Yeah, we need to put this team back in Seattle. We like Seattle is hungry for a basketball franchise. You know what I'm saying? But it's just one of those where those three teams, the Pelicans, the Hornets, and the Wizards, man, that's where careers go to die. So you'd want
Yeah,
to avoid that like the plague, man.
yeah, not for
Yeah, I
real.
mean, even if we go back to the success they had with Larry Johnson or whatever, even if you're thinking about now when they got LaMelo Ball and they got the other dude Brandon Miller, bro. I mean, these are high draft picks, bro, and then really not making no noise with it. So it's not like I'm just really being salty. Like just talking basketball, bro. They be getting the draft picks. They just didn't do nothing with it. The biggest
Well,
hang up on the Nets is we gave it to Tatum and Brown, whoop de whoop, but still in all, that's not what we did when we got them. When we get our picks, we can see what we're gonna do. But when you think about the Houston Rockets, they're a successful team with their draft picks. Not so
yeah,
much with Reed Shepard or whatever, but Amen Thompson very successful. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think
Same
I
thing with
think Charlotte I think Charlotte messed up when they fired their coach a couple of years ago because they were on the right path. They were actually ascending and getting better. And if you look, they were like maybe a game or two out of the playoffs one year. And
Right.
then all of a sudden they fired a head coach and now they're back down to winning 19 games in a season. Like people really don't realize how important if you got a good coach, you gotta hang on to that person, whatever. Like you gotta all right, look, I know we didn't give you much to work with roster wise, but I see what you're doing. I see the effort you're making. And that's where a GM has to be there. A GM has to be present and not just look at the box score or the standings and actually see what's happening in practice and in those games. They have to really pay attention and see, okay, this guy is really making do with what he has out there. So imagine if I can just retool the roster and get him some quality players out there, what this team could be. And I'm speaking, from a GM's point of view of how they should look at it instead of just going ahead and cutting bait with dudes just because they didn't make the playoffs.
But you know what it comes down to at the end of the day, regardless of the sport, there's not that many owners like across the landscape of professional sports that care about winning. And
Yeah,
that's where it starts. It
yeah,
starts at the top. Some of these owners, they're in it for like everybody else. They're in it for a paycheck. Because I guarantee you, whether the Washington Wizards, they got 17 wins right now, or they win 50 games, guess what? Their owner's getting bread. And at the end of the day, that's what some of these guys only care about. They can care less about the product they put out there on the court. You look at Donald Sterling, all of those years that he owned the Clippers. When they were actually winning, he was pissed off because he was like, I'm losing money.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So like that's the way that some of these people, out there. So with that said, you gotta appreciate the teams that win. You gotta appreciate the organizations that try to go out there and do win. And like I said, most of those teams that we're looking at the bottom of the standings, these top picks, unfortunately, they're not gonna have a chance there. It was fortunate for a guy like Cade Cunningham because he looked like he was on that track in Detroit
yep,
that they finally got themselves a coach that was able to change the culture. And to your point, Mark, when you get a guy like that in your building, you got to keep him. But the other problem, and you and I, we're going to talk about this in a couple of days. It's like basically winning in the NBA as a head coach is kind of like, a curse right now. It's kind of like, oh, I won 50 games. I'm looking over my shoulder like, yo, I'm about to get canned, you know? So it's just like how the dynamic is changing the game.
yeah.
it.
Unfortunately, and
I don't.
unfortunately, no, go
Yeah,
ahead, Brizo.
no, I'm saying I don't want to be cold saying this, but I think some of it, is the adjustments that they make. You know, same thing with Mike Malone. Maybe they felt like, yo, why are you so arrogant? We got the best player in the whole wide world. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead. Pete.
No, I was just gonna say, like, it's really, you gotta identify exactly how important the head coach is, and
Mhm.
you gotta also understand that you gotta count every win where it is. And like I used
Right.
to say this when I was a trainer in my role at work, I used to tell people all the time, like, you gotta take wins in the smallest things. And I think too many times now, owners and some GMs who have too much control, they have this mentality that, okay, if you won a championship this year, it don't mean anything unless you repeat. And it's kind of warped, like, to where now yesterday's championship is today's repeat, or battling for a three-peat. And I don't know how things have become that distorted, especially in the NBA, because you don't really see that in baseball, you don't really see that in football, you don't really see that in hockey, where a dude wins a title and then is on the hot seat the next year, the year after. Usually, you win a title, and unless the locker room completely implodes, you normally have like a 3 to 5 year grace period to just not completely suck, but to stay relevant and competing for that title. Now it seems like in the NBA, all right, if you win a title this year and then next year you don't at least go to the finals and lose, maybe your seat starts getting hot. And that's crazy to think, because basically what you're saying is your first title that you won meant absolutely nothing. What you're saying is the things that your coach implemented into that team, how he shaped and molded that team into a winning team, basically meant nothing, because now you're just expecting these players to go ahead and win no matter who you bring in. And that just really shows that there's a huge disconnect in between ownership, front office, and head coach right now in the NBA.
Yeah,
Listen,
the culture of it, and I think that's because of the front office trying to crunch the numbers. How many, how successful can we be with these contracts that we have? Yeah, I get that part, but that's the business of basketball. You lose out on the culture. You lose out not listening to the fan base. You lose out. I mean, I never seen this happen to what happened in Nico. I heard Nico got to travel around with security. His family got to be with him at all times. And again, I'm not saying this is an eye opener for the owners, but it's to say that the fans care. And how you gonna you can't just have them say, okay, well, they bought Luka jerseys, now they're gonna just buy AD jerseys. That's not how it works. They still mad at that situation. So I'm saying that to say that kind of upheaval from the fans they might not have expected, but that's the same fan base that's seen Dirk stay his whole career there, and I think they wanted the same thing for Luka, and it was a lot of pushback on Nico Harrison. So I don't know if this thing is going to be trending up or down, Pete. But
Real,
it's in my opinion, the fans don't win seeing the franchises not care about the actual players and the coach.
no, real quick, Will, and then I'm gonna let you go. Um, this is how crazy this was. It wasn't just like the fan base that this rocked. Do you realize that last night was the first Mavericks game that Dirk Nowitzki attended since the Luka trade? And he actually went to LA to see Luka play in his first game with the Lakers. So this not only rocked the fan base, this rocked the entire organization.
Yeah,
yeah, listen, I look at it like this. I'm gonna come at this from several aspects. Number one, we don't have the same type of owners who own teams, because before it was one of those where you had owners who were sports people who understood that aspect. Now, the people who are buying these teams now, they're corporations, and they're treating these teams like corporations, and they feel like everybody is expendable. Sports chemistry is so important. Okay. And then on top of that, in this era of player empowerment, it's one of those where it's taking a lot away from the coaches, because like now, more and more we're seeing coaches who are powerless. Okay. And it's getting back to like some of the executives that are running the teams. I can't remember the dude's name off the top of my head. The guy who's the GM for the Memphis Grizzlies does not have a basketball background. The dude graduated from Duke Law. Okay, he's a lawyer, and this is who the Grizzlies have running their front office, and it's just like this dude basically the writing was on the wall from last year with Taylor Jenkins. They lost 55 games, and this dude was like, you know what? We're gonna fire all of your assistant coaches. So anytime a team fires a head coaches, all of his assistant coaches, it's one of those where you know what? That guy's on borrowed time. So from that point, they like the team, not Taylor Jenkins, hired his assistant coaches. They brought in a an assistant coach from overseas, and they're like, you know what? We want you to implement your offense. Taylor Jenkins didn't like the offense. More importantly, John Morant didn't like the offense. And then as Taylor Jenkins was starting to implement more of the offense that John Morant liked, they were like, you know what? You can kick the bricks, man. So that right there is a big time problem. You know what I mean? So it's just, you
But
know,
you know what I don't like about it neither is that
mhm.
these teams try to play copycat. This is not a copy and paste league. Just
But it
because,
is now. That's the
but
thing
no,
about it. It
but
is now.
but no. But you being the paster, the copy and paster, there ain't no love for you in that win column. You're not going to beat the original Dundadas. You can't take the formula that they used to win and beat that team with that formula. I mean, it's possible, but chances slim to none. You feel what I mean? So
But that's
I
how
think
that's
every
how they're
team,
looking at it, though. Unfortunately, like I'm
I think every
totally
team should
with
have
you.
their own identity, bro.
No,
Just style.
I'm totally with you. But in my opinion, I think when you look back to a team like the Warriors when they were in their little dynasty, like I think they're kind of what broke the mold to where now every team wanted to copy and paste that way of winning and that style of basketball. And I think that's why for the past decade we've gotten the brand of basketball that we've gotten where it's become a little bit lethargic and not so appealing to watch where guys are chucking up 40, 50, 60 threes in a game each team. Like some team broke a crazy record this season. I think it was like 72 or 73 attempts.
I think
Like
it was the
that's just
Bulls. I think it was the
ridiculous.
Bulls, man.
Yeah, it's just like, come on, man. Like 72 3-pointers. Like, come on. Like, we don't want to see that. I know I don't want to see that. I know you guys don't want to see that. We want to see
Nah.
more of a variety of a game instead of dudes just halfway jogging down the court and launching up threes from the hash mark and then not playing any defense on the way back. It's just not a fun brand of basketball to watch. But I don't want to digress too much from the point. But it all starts, in my opinion, AAU. It all starts from there. And AAU has ruined the game of basketball. It's going to continue to ruin the game of basketball. And until something is done about it on that level, it's just going to be a trickle down of nonsense.
Yeah,
Listen,
no, it's to the point. It correlates, in my opinion, because we're talking about the playoffs, and these are as recent. We talking Taylor Jenkins that happened maybe 2 weeks ago. I mean, to get this far or this close to the playoffs and fire the head coach to me is it's working backwards. You know what I'm saying? And did the same thing with what I mean, Mike Malone. And you say he a Queens native, bro. I think it's some motion behind him becoming the Knicks head coach. I'm not gonna
Hey,
lie to
I'm
well,
telling
listen,
you,
you because
if they lose to Detroit or they look terrible against the Celtics in the second round, which they probably will, and if those dudes start looking like tired and just gassed, oh, you better believe that like he might Brian Dable might have a shot of staying in New York longer than Tom Thibodeau.
well, listen. Just on that subject, I'll tell you like this. There's also rumblings that Mike Malone could be the guy to replace Pop in San
Mm,
Antonio.
mm,
You know what I'm saying?
mm,
So like just throwing it
he
out
he an understudy of Pop too, right?
there. Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
That make more sense. That
But
makes a lot
but
of
but but
sense.
he also does have connections to the Knicks because his dad was an assistant coach with the Knicks for quite some time, Brendan Malone.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. That's. I'm glad y'all said that. That's a hot take. We definitely gonna revisit this. You know what I mean? Maybe we could do a precap before the season start. Because I imagine this off season is It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, we
It's gonna
definitely
be interesting. You know what I'm
definitely
saying?
need to do some hot stove off season, like, draft after draft recap. Focus on trades, all of that stuff. I'm definitely down for that.
Listen, just throwing it out there. Heading into the summer, Mike Brown, Michael Malone, Taylor Jenkins, okay, and possibly Nick Nurse, or like could be out there for head coaching, positions, because there's a possibility that Philly might tell Nick Nurse to,
Oh yeah,
hit the bricks, even though this season really wasn't his fault because look at what he was given to work with. You know what I mean? But still,
Frank
like,
Vogel.
yeah, you know what I'm saying. So we're
I
just
could
going.
see I could see Budenholzer maybe even being shown the door because Phoenix is definitely showing that they have zero patience.
Well, listen, Matt Ishbia has become basketball's answer to George Steinbrenner.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? As far as how he goes through coaches, we went from Monty Williams to Frank Vogel to now Budenholzer in a
yeah,
New York minute. Okay.
yeah. And
Spending
the
big money.
dude, he doesn't care about spending that dead money on fulfilling the financial obligations of the contract. He could care less. Let's just get
Well,
another guy in there.
but Phoenix has to do something now because the problem is like they don't have any picks. I don't first round picks. I don't think for the rest of this decade.
They've
Y-
screwed themselves
Yes.
royally. Yeah,
That's a
from going to the finals to being non-competitive for the even postseason now. Just
Yeah,
crazy,
man.
man.
And then, again, it's just you just because those contracts are available don't mean you should take it. And
Well,
I had asked the question about how the Suns did with Booker's career. Did they surround him with talent? Did they take too long to surround him with talent? Because in my opinion, they had their little run, but more times than not, you want to start to be paired with somebody. And I guess it was supposed to be Booker or Aiton, but they didn't give it enough time for it to make it anything. They traded Aiton, and Aiton was complaining
They
like he
blew
was
the whole
doing a
team
lot of
up.
complaining.
well,
Word, he was doing a lot of complaining, but they had draft picks too. Booker wasn't that high, but he was a lottery pick.
They blew that
But
whole team up, man. If you think about it, that core, they had four young pieces of that core in Booker, Aiton, Mikal Bridges, and Cam Johnson. Like a really good young core with a proven veteran leader at the point guard doing the heavy lifting of getting the whole team involved. Like, okay, yeah, they go to the finals, they lose to Milwaukee. You don't really give them an opportunity to run it back in its natural sense because now you start having problems between Aiton and the coach. And then you start having problems with, oh, Chris Paul, he's always having problems with somebody. So you have all these different problems and then you blow the team up completely. You don't just get rid of one dude and try to make a move. You blow the whole young core up. Then you get rid of the veteran point guard, and now you ask your main scorer to now take on a role that he's never had to play before in being the primary ball handler and distributor. Now you're gonna basically ask him to do something that he's not good at. This is a dude who scored 70 points in a game before. You basically tell him, we don't need you to be a scorer. Now we need you to be a facilitator. And then you bring in two other, well, I'm not going to call Durant a ball dominant player, but Bradley Beal is by far a ball dominant player. He had the
neither
highest
was
usage in the NBA like 2 or 3 seasons in a row when he was in Washington. So you like it was just a bad fit from the beginning. Literally, they thought they were putting together a team on 2K, and they thought that since they was going to get one dude that was a 93 overall and another dude that's a 96 overall and put him with a dude that's 95 overall, and they just going to be the best team.
listen,
yeah,
Mark.
nah.
I'm sorry, go, bro.
No. I just wanted to introduce my guy Jay to the show. Shout out to This Is JTV, fresh off the
Yeah.
weed.
It's good, bro.
Right after this, I'ma probably spark up maybe 5 minutes, little smoke break and whatnot. Know what I mean, then I'm gonna come right back and we're gonna do the recap. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
don't even end the live, man. Because while y'all talking, I'm about to step off and roll up and then come back.
but Jay, talk to us, man. We talking about the playoffs. Any game
Yo,
sevens you?
only thing I was listening to y'all while I was at the game. I put some of my comments in the comments, but the Knicks are gonna lose to the Pistons, so they better avoid the Pistons at all costs because the Pistons play a
Three and
hard,
one this regular season.
tough.
They beat him 3 times.
Bro, you didn't even have to tell me that for me to know that they just play hard, bro. Like the Knicks can't play with teams that are young and hungry. Know what I mean? They almost lost to us twice this year, and Detroit is like a version. I feel like Detroit is like a version of us in 2 or 3 years. Like the way that they play and the way that they gelling together, the way that they had their players that been playing together for the past couple years, and they was stinking, but now they looking good together. And the Knicks better avoid them at all costs,
So let me ask
or
you,
else
Jay.
it's a first round exit for them.
Jay, just for the fans' sake of it, I'll answer the question because and then we could pass it to Jay. I was saying that I asked P and Will what game sevens they wanted to see. I'll answer the question too. I want to see the Lakers and the Warriors. I want to see that in the first round. I don't want it to be go to the conference finals. I don't want the NBA to try to stretch it out. No, give it to us immediately. Pulse. Let the fans see the the fireworks. A You still gonna have them tuning in. They want to. Everybody want to see a team win it for their first time. So keep pushing that. Push the Clippers. Push the. And I'm not saying make them win. I'm saying that don't try to. You know what I mean? Make it to where we gotta see that in order to build up the suspense of Curry and LeBron. We've seen it already. You know
That's
what I'm
why I
saying?
don't
How
want to
many
see it.
times?
Honestly, I could go without it this year.
So you don't want to see him in the first round at
I
all?
could go without seeing them throughout the whole thing because I think the West is so tough right now that it's so many other potential good matchups that we haven't seen already. Or I would rather see Lakers and Nuggets because I think the dynamic in that has probably changed now with Luka moving over to LA to where now maybe the Lakers can obviously get a win over the Nuggets in the
But that's
series
what I'm
where
saying, P.
like
That's
I
why
want
I
to see
don't want to.
everything other than the Lakers and
Nah,
the
I
All
feel
Warriors.
right.
like
So
I don't
hold on.
want to
I
see
this
it.
give you that, but I
this the
don't want to see
last
that.
time we probably could see it, or one of the last times we could see it. I think the NBA would be remiss not to
That's
cash
what
out on that right there.
that's
That would
what
be
YouTube is for,
But
man.
not the conference
You can see
finals,
their
man.
glory
Maybe the
days
first
anytime
round.
you want, man. I don't want to see these two old dudes not looking like they used to look and just I don't want to
nah.
see
It's
that
different
series ever.
dynamics. You got
I don't
Luca
want to see
and
that
Jimmy
series
Butler
ever.
in that too. It's different.
I would
But
much
Yeah,
hold
they
on.
on the West Coast. It's not a This not a championship game. It's totally
But
different.
I would
hold on.
much rather see Lakers Nuggets and Clippers Warriors or Warriors Grizzlies. I would much rather or Lakers Timberwolves. I would much rather see any of those combinations than
Hold
the
on. Let me
Lakers
ask the
and
Yeah,
chat.
nah,
Warriors.
not enough star power.
Hold on. Chat. Put in the comments who y'all want to see play in the game seven. The reason why I say no to the Denver Nuggets and the Lakers, P, is because you went out and got Luca just because you got your ass whipped by the Nuggets last playoffs. So that's my thing. Like, no, I don't want to see that now because you went out and did the most. And this the second time you did it. You pulled the franchise player and AD off of the Pelicans, and this is the second time now you got Luca from the Dallas Mavericks. This ain't just some role player. You went and got the star main player.
That's
So
what the Lakers do, man. Like
yeah, but
Paul Gasol before that, and
that's why I don't want to see it because you doing all that, and Jokic ain't need that. Your ass need a whole star from another team to go versus Jokic. You scared, LeBron? I don't want to see that. No, no. All right. So what I want is Jay. So Jay, he
I'm
did
listening.
say
I'm
he's
right
going
here. I'm
to.
right here.
Oh, okay. All right. So Jay, who do you want to see the Thunder versus? What about Thunder versus Grizzlies? Shea versus John Morant. You think that's a possibility? Think
Who
that could
who
happen?
who is in eighth place right now? Like who's in the play-in? On
it's
the
It,
crazy. Like
it's the Timberwolves, but
look at that
go
on
ahead,
the
P.
screen when you get a chance. It's crazy right now between 3 and 8. Two
I
and a
did
half,
hear that.
two and a
You're right.
half games, 2.5 games different. So like literally between now and Sunday, Minnesota could go all the way from 8 to 4 or 3, even possibly. Like if they went out, like them in Memphis, I'm telling you, them in Memphis have basically all their own chips in their hands, so to speak. And I think tonight's game, and I'm actually going to check the score of that game right now because I think
What's
that
score?
game, Memphis and Minnesota. I think whoever wins that game tonight has the inside track on and see it's a dogfight. it's a dogfight right now because both teams know exactly how important this game is, man.
Yeah. The implications, the playoff implications.
This is huge right here. This isn't just one game. This is the difference between home court advantage in the first round and not.
Mm-hmm. Who got the better home court advantage out of these two teams? Let me go check that out. Like who plays better at home between them?
Like that's going to be a hell of a fourth quarter. Like,
oh yeah. All right, so the home court advantage between Minnesota and Memphis. 46 and 33 Minnesota, 47 and 32 the Memphis Grizzlies. The home for the Minnesota is 23 and 16, Memphis 25 and 14. They both feel they like the same team. That might make the difference in who
but
plays
in the
home
playoffs,
versus each
exactly.
other.
That home crowd starts getting loud.
Hell
you know,
yeah.
and then you got not necessarily, in my opinion, for the star players, but for the role players. When they're in a away arena and 15, 20,000 people are screaming their lungs out, and then that's when you're at the free throw line and the knees start knocking and you start getting a little nervous, the palms get sweaty and you make mistakes. That's the difference in those playoff games with that home court advantage.
Mm-hmm. Palms sweaty, knees weak, arms is heavy, mom spaghetti.
Right.
Ice,
but
my guy Ice, he said SGA versus Curry. Y'all want to see that?
Yeah, I'm all for that. Let's go. Let's see that. But I don't think the Warriors are slipping down to 8 for that to happen. But I would love to see that in the first round.
Yeah.
Like I just want to see something new. I've seen. Think about it. How many times have we seen LeBron and Curry, man?
We try to see Joker versus SGA, man. MVP battle. That's it.
Well, I don't think the Nuggets slipping down to 8. They could, but I don't think they would. Because it's all about.
They ain't got no coach. They got Joker over there trying to be the coach.
Yo, but I did y'all hear what he said yesterday? Like he made a comment.
Yeah, he said we not vulnerable. We a beast in the corner.
No, he said, yeah, like that's when the beast is like most dangerous is when they vulnerable or something like that. Like I think that's huge because you don't really hear him talk like that. And I think he's really gonna go out there and prove a point. And I think whoever got to deal with them in the first round is gonna have to deal with a lot. Like I think Denver's, I don't think they're gonna make a deep run, but I think they get out the first round no matter who they play. And that's why I really like. I'm telling you, Lakers Nuggets first round, like that would be the best playoff series in the first round. Like in my opinion, like that would just be box office. Like you got star power everywhere. You got just two great teams that because the Lakers, I don't know if y'all noticed, but like since Luka has been there, they've kind of reshaped their team and they're playing a little bit more team basketball as opposed to when it was just LeBron pretty much doing everything and hoping that Anthony Davis was out there a little bit and hoping Reeves would step up and have a 20-point game. Like Reeves has been blossoming with Luka Doncic out there.
I was about to say, how much could he, like you said, do that in the bright lights?
Now, did y'all see? They said connect Austin Reeves and Luka is the Pokemon evolution of the white basketball player.
I did see that. That had me cracking up.
She had me cracking up.
Nah, that was funny.
I like that. If they again, that's what I want to see. If Reeves could help get the Lakers past the Nuggets, then yeah. And to your point, Pete, yeah. If it's the first round, I'll be a fan to see that. But I don't want to see this climax at the conference finals. Like, no, either the first round or I don't want to see. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel. The Clippers, I ain't gonna lie. I want to see them versus the Rockets for some reason.
Clippers and the Rockets. I mean, I think the Rockets, as much as and remember, I'm the one that kind of said Houston was gonna have this year that they haven't. If we go back to the season preview we did, I told y'all the Rockets was going to be good. But I think the dance ends in the playoffs. I think the only shot that they have of getting out the first round is if Sacramento or Dallas miraculously get in that 7th spot. somehow, and I think that's the only chance. I don't see them beating Minnesota, Golden State, or Memphis in the 7-game series. I just don't see it.
Okay.
I think all three of those teams have they have way more playoff experience, especially Golden State. So I just don't see them winning a 7-game series. I think the parade ends for them with just being the accomplishment of getting the second seed. It's OKC's conference to lose, in my
Facts.
opinion.
But they
But
lost it last year.
I was gonna say the only way that I think they don't win the conference is if we see more of what we saw out of the Lakers last night. And what I mean by that is Luka put up 31 of his 45 in the first half. And here's why that's huge. Because it gave old man James a chance to kind of coast the first 2 or 3 quarters. And then he put up 14 in the fourth. If the Lakers can find a way to win games like that in the postseason, where Luka is doing most of the heavy lifting and LeBron can be fresh in the fourth quarter, I think they got a chance to beat OKC. But if that doesn't happen, then it's OKC's conference to lose.
Yeah, they look tough. I mean, that 14 win gap between 1 and 2 is tough.
45 games this year, they have won by 10 points or more.
Yeah, that's belt to
But
ass.
the thing is, the game slows down in the playoffs. We all know that. Also, is SGA going to get as many foul calls in the playoffs as he gets during the regular season? That's something to be like. Last year, they was just as much as a threat, and they got wiped off. What was that? First round, second round? I
Second round by
forgot.
Dallas.
Second
Second round.
round.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
they
by
lost to a
Dallas.
tough Dallas team. That Dallas was tough.
No, listen, I like OKC, and you know that. I just don't know how they're gonna fare in the playoffs for real because
But
of
no,
last
but
year,
look
because
at
of
their
the youth.
competition. Look at
But
their competition, Jay. Dallas ain't Dallas no more. They would be
yeah,
going versus the Timberwolves. You don't see them getting past the Timberwolves?
it's a lot of tough teams over there, bro, and it depends on the strategy for the 7-game series because even if you beat a team in the regular season, I feel like there's some teams that even if you beat them in the regular season, you won't be able to beat them in the playoffs because they're game planning for you night after night differently than during a regular season game.
What's going
But
to
do you
hurt?
give credit to the Minnesota Timberwolves for that? Like they built like that to do that to OKC?
Um Listen, I never want to give any credit to a team that Julius Randle is on, so I'm gonna say no. You know what I mean,
What's going to hurt OKC is the same thing that hurt them last year. They don't have that second consistent guy behind SGA, and until they do that, um, they're going to rack up the wins in the regular season. But of course, like we just said, playoffs and the postseason are two different beasts, man. I said this before, and I'll throw it out there again. I think KD needs to go back to OKC, man. Finish his career there, man. I really do.
yo,
I really do.
yo, Breeze. When we would first trade, when they first talked about trading KD, didn't I say trade him back to where he first came from, whence he came?
Yeah.
That's what I said. Trade him to where he came from, where he started at. Send him back there if he want to go somewhere, and it would have been good for him, and it would have been good for us. We could have got good pieces from OKC. Yo, bro.
Nah, go ahead. I want to hear you and Will
That's
talk about that. Go
That
ahead.
shit pisses me off, but it's a great idea. Will said that. That's a great idea, but it's like, why wouldn't Sean Marks think of that when KD says he wants to be traded? Look at the pieces they got. Look at the shit we need. He could have complimented their team. Maybe he ain't want to go there, but listen, you signed a contract. It ain't where you want to go. It's where we want to send you, where we could get the best value for you, buddy.
But
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
the
and now
relationship
they're
Sean
talking
Marks
about
got
making
with the
that deal.
Phoenix Suns.
Now Phoenix is talking about possibly making that deal. Like what I heard is, a couple of landing spots for him, maybe either OKC, the Knicks, or Cleveland.
Well,
Those are
he
the
shut
three.
that
Nah, the
Knicks rumor
Spurs.
down. Somebody DM'd him about that Knicks rumor personally and said,
Oh
"Yo,
yeah, I did see
if
that.
that true?" He said, "No, simply."
Yeah, but again, he ain't got no control over that. If that's where they want to send him, that's where they want to send him. I don't see the Knicks making that deal because then,
The
why would
Knicks
you
just
why would
traded
you cut
6
your
first
team
round picks for
for a
Mikal
36
Bridges.
year
What
old
deal
dude?
won't they make?
Yeah, but I don't. Why would you gut your team for a 36, 37-year-old dude like that?
Why
That to
would you
me,
give up 6 first-round picks for a nigga named Mid-Cal? I
I
don't
think
know.
I
They the
think
Knicks. They do
I,
shit like that.
I think the Spurs got motion with that, bro.
I mean,
Spurs.
yeah, they might be able to
He going to
swing a move
Minnesota,
too.
man.
They might be able to swing a move too. It's a couple
He
of
going to
good,
Minnesota with
but he won't
Ant-Man.
be.
They love
He
each
won't be
other. They
swinging.
played together at in the Olympics.
Yeah.
That's it. They love each other game. I feel like that's where he going.
That's crazy. They ended up. Well, they might end up with the same record as Portland. Like three all-world players, all NBA players, 2 bona fide Hall of Famers. Maybe Bradley Beal gets in 2 to make it 3, and they got the same record as the Portland Trailblazers. That's crazy.
Should have stayed with Brooklyn. But go Will, why you
Fact.
think what when you see him on OKC, what does the starting 5 look like with KD in that starting line?
I would definitely say first and foremost him and SGA. Of course, I'm not sure who you would give up to make that deal work. I mean, of course, right now, if you're Phoenix, you want players and picks back for that. But I mean, I don't. I would imagine. I would imagine Chet Holmgren would have to be a part of that trade.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like first things first. I'm not sure who else OKC would have to give up, but like the problem is like with their front office, it's like they operate like a small market team. They want to like just keep holding on to their picks, holding on to their picks. That championship window in the NBA closes very quickly, my friend. And you got to strike right now while the iron's hot. Take some of those picks, take some of those young players. You ain't got to take everybody, okay? But just you need another guy. You're gonna need yourself another finisher in the postseason because I guarantee you, as good as the things have been for the Thunder in the regular season, when they get into these playoff series, with possibly the Lakers, Rockets, Nuggets, whomever, SGA is gonna get his. They're gonna make him work a little bit more for his points, but you need another consistent guy. You know what I'm saying? And that right there, I think, is what's gonna hurt them. Definitely, KD and SGA, but I'm not sure who the Thunder would give up aside from Chet Holmgren.
Oh, I heard Dallas too. Matter of fact, I did hear Dallas. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
That
it
would
is.
that wouldn't work. But like I just want to throw out a question to y'all real quick, okay? And I
Yeah.
know like I know I got some we got Nets fans
I don't
here.
think Dallas really trying to improve their roster anyway.
I
From what
heard
I
that
heard,
also too about casino stuff.
yeah, they
Like they
not
Yeah.
want
trying
to
to improve.
The
totally
business
tank
of
so they can
basketball.
relocate and get a casino with they. I heard that too. Yeah.
That shit
Nah,
was a whole law against casinos, and now they pulling this kind of
Bro, listen.
malarkey.
I'm not saying I got that type of money, right? But let's say if I did buy a basketball team with the intention of building a casino around it because my family owns a lot of casinos and I paid off every politician in the state and then they vote against gambling at the first chance that they can. Oh yeah, I trade their favorite player too.
Yeah, but that's what I'm
Oh
saying
yeah, that's
about.
how you feel? Fuck this nigga Luca.
Yeah, but
Get him out of here.
that's what
I
I'm
didn't
saying.
even look at it that way.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The fans lose out like that because now you don't care about the. It's all about the. It's all about the money, the dollar sign. So
It's
everything
always
has
all
to
about
do
the
with
dollar
Yeah,
sign, Breezo.
always,
right.
always.
But again, you got to realize what's worse about it is that at this point, Texas is a basketball state. Bro. They got the
Mhm.
Rockets. They got
Nah,
Dallas.
Texas is
And
a football state. It
I was
ain't
about
never
to say
gonna be anything
they
but
a
football,
sports
Cal-
state.
man.
That's what I was gonna say.
Nah,
Sports,
they
period.
a football.
I
Friday night lights, gentlemen, high school football. Like I'm telling you,
But
man,
bro,
yeah,
Texas
yeah.
I
is
feel
a
I
like
so
football
you
I
state.
right.
give you that,
Look,
but
oh wait, you
it's still
right.
you
But they
still can't do
also
that to
big
the
on
fans, bro.
basketball.
Yeah, they
They
are.
even got a big soccer culture in Texas. Crazy. Like
Yeah,
they just big on sports. Period.
yeah.
Yeah, but
This
still,
goes heavy.
for them to do that,
NFL, college, all that.
right into the
Baseball
point,
too.
right into the
Yeah,
point.
not
You
so
taking
much.
away you making gambling take away from the sport. Gambling is supposed to add to the sport where fans can engage and hopefully hit their parlays and even that could be detrimental to the game if oversaturated. But the
Mhm.
point is that for you, if that soliloquy is true that Jay just said, Out of spite, they got Luke up out of there because they said no to gambling. That is atrocious work.
It's devious, man. That's just
But
devious.
not
Word.
it's not that devious, bro. It's kind of
That's
obvious
diabolical.
if the only reason, like, if
Yeah,
yo, I bought this thing, I'm getting
yeah,
all of these permits to get this hotel around, like, whole resort area around this the damn arena, and
yeah,
y'all know this, and I'm paying y'all off behind closed doors, and then y'all vote against it.
yeah.
What's up with y'all?
Nah, that's why
Well,
when I heard the theory of, maybe that they're gonna possibly get so bad to the point where they can relocate, because you can't relocate when a team is doing good. You gotta,
Mm-hmm.
meet certain attendance things and stuff like that. As we all know from Major League, when she tried to famously move the team to get them to suck. But I mean, depending on, like, Kyrie's probably not coming back till halfway through the year next year with his injury. If AD can or can't stay healthy, that's going to be huge to see what they do, if they decide to add pieces or if they decide to just keep subtracting. Like, and if they do, does Adam Silver finally grow a pair and channel his inner David Stern and step in and do something, or does he just continue to be the pushover that he has been his entire tenure?
I take B. I take B if I had to pick one. Know what I
But
mean,
Will, you had a question for us. Throw that out there, bro.
Yeah, nah. Listen, my question was, it didn't work out, with KD with Brooklyn. All right, and it hasn't worked out with him in Phoenix. How does that change his legacy if it does, as a basketball player?
I think a lot.
me, I think it says a lot about him. We could go to P. I'll go last. Go ahead, go P.
No, I think a lot because he didn't get over the hump in OKC with a three-headed monster. He didn't get over the hump in Brooklyn, and injuries has a lot to do with that. I'll throw that out there for sure, because that one year with Harden and Kyrie and everything. And then again, now another three-headed monster, and he the hump. And the only time he really did get over the hump is when he was basically
spoon
the
fed.
egg and the cake mix, and the store-bought cake mix, because they already had a cake. Basically, they just needed the egg, so to speak. And that's all he really was just the egg to kind of help make the cake. And yeah, man, this right here, if this next move will possibly make his legacy. I think he's gonna go down as a top 10 scorer of all
20.
time.
Oh, I about to say top 20 player though. He
Yeah,
like he
top
he
top
ruined his
20,
legacy already.
25
His
player.
legacy is already ruined. It's too late.
But yeah, definitely, like, if he doesn't make this next move his best move, like, ridicule should be rained down upon him. And he's kind of, like, other than the decision to go to Golden State, if you really think about it, he's been unscathed by the media, by fans, by people like us talking on a podcast. Like, he's been unscathed. LeBron has been the one to kind of take all the shots fired from everybody, and KD's just kind of been like safe. So if he doesn't make it, like I said, the next move his best move, he should get all the shit that's coming to him. Like, seriously, he deserves it.
Man, I fucked with KD when he was here, pretty much only then. Maybe a little bit after, because I still fuck with KD, but I wasn't a KD fan before that, for real. And the thing is, KD already ruined his legacy by going to Golden State in the first place. And then he tried to leave to make it on his own. He fell flat on his face. It's not like his legacy is fucked up. He could have been a top 3 player of all time, and he's right now he's probably gonna be a top 20 player of all time because nobody respects him or his legacy. Niggas know he a bucket, but niggas also know he ain't a bus driver. He not the leader or nothing. He just want to hoop, and that's cool. But unless he goes ring chasing and team up with somebody else that's about to win a ring, he's not gonna get another ring. That's how he got his first 2 rings. And his legacy is already fucked up. So his legacy is gonna be what it is. He ruined it. It's on him. And Yeah, if he would have stayed in Brooklyn, he could have still found a way to get himself up out the mud, and then they could have said, "Yo, you did this on your own." But he's never gonna do anything on his own. He don't want to do anything on his own, and it is what it is.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Listen, yo,
Um, shit. You know, the Nets fans they said enough about you, KD. I don't think you could take no more. I'm not even going to add to that. You know what I
Yo,
mean?
I'm just
But that
keeping
was
it
a
a
good
buck,
question.
bro.
It's a good question by Will though.
I'm just
not
keeping it a buck. Look at where his legacy was, bro. Look at what his trajectory was about to be. But as soon as he went to Golden State, it kind of negated everything because even though he was the finals MVP, people look at it like, just like Draymond said, we don't need you, dude. Like, we
listen,
don't need you,
Nah, but
dude.
they did though, man, because
listen.
Yeah, but
I
that's
think
I'm talking about
without
perception. I'm not
KD,
talking about the real shit. I'm talking about perception.
yeah.
People perceive it as they didn't need him. You just called him an egg, bro.
So
Like,
hold on.
Nah, but you need an egg with
bro, you
ready
could use
with
something else,
store-bought
bro.
cake mix.
Vegan.
You
If a
still
vegan
need an
wanted to
egg.
make that same cake, they would put something else in it besides the egg, and it'll come out fluffy too. Like,
But will it
you
be
don't
as
need the
cooked?
egg.
But
You can
here's the thing
find
though.
a
Will
substitute
it
for the
be
egg.
as good? You might.
But
So my point being, you get to the finals, but then you lose to Cleveland. I think if Katie is not on those Warriors teams that beat Cleveland, I think at best they split those two finals with Cleveland, and there's a damn good chance Cleveland wins both of them.
Nah,
Listen,
listen,
hold on. Let me. I'm not disagreeing with
they
you. I
might.
just want
They
to ask.
probably would have won by a few less points.
Nah, I'm telling you,
I just
man.
want to ask Will this question.
what's up, man?
Where do you want to see what do you want to see Katie legacy be? Do you want his legacy to get past this and ride off into the sunset? You know what I mean? How do you see KD leaving the NBA? Because I don't think he leaves basketball. But how do you think that he leaves the NBA?
I've
But he,
said, listen, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think Kevin Durant is going to be in that Isaiah Thomas category, and I say it from the standpoint he's going to spend the rest of his natural life searching for the respect that he feels that he deserves. Okay, and the thing is like, yo, KD going to Golden State was kind of like, you being the last guy in the Royal Rumble, and then you bragging about you won. Like, yeah, everybody else beat up,
yo,
you beat up everybody. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it's like the same thing with Isaiah. Isaiah, unfortunately has spent the bulk of his like retired career not being celebrated the way he should because that whole incident in '91 when they walked off the court. It's gonna be like that with KD because the fact that Golden State won a chip without you prior to you getting there, and then they won another one after you bounced, and then you know how things ended for you in Brooklyn, and now how things are looking for you out in Phoenix. It's gonna be a bad look because say what you want about LeBron, good, bad, or indifferent. When he bounced from team to team, he always won a chip. You know what I'm saying? KD has tried to do it, and like Mark, to your point, man, it ain't worked out, man. You know what I'm saying? And LeBron has gotten a lot of criticism for what he's done. Some of it's warranted, okay, but at the very least, you could say, you know what, that dude went places and won, man. With KD, man, it hasn't worked out, man. I knew it wasn't going to work out with him in Brooklyn with Kyrie. I just knew it was not going to work out. I knew it was going to be a disaster in Phoenix when they put him, Booker, and Beal together because I'm like, yo, you got three scorers and no point guard. And you're talking about, oh, they could be the point guard. I'm like, okay. And we see where that's gotten them. You know what I mean? So I think KD is just going to spend the rest of his natural life looking for the respect that he feels that he deserves. I think the only way it changes is if he goes someplace else and gets a ring. But even with that, it's still gonna look like you going to somebody else's team. That's
right.
why I brought up the
That's why his
OKC.
legacy is ruined.
Yeah,
Right.
listen, that's why I brought up the OKC factor before because maybe it could kind of be like a LeBron type scenario when
Right.
LeBron went back to Cleveland and won. Maybe like, all right, your career is going coming full circle. And I know to the response in the comments before, yeah, he was drafted by Seattle when they were still the Sonics. He played there for 1 year before going to OKC. But we still think of him primarily with the Thunder. So maybe from that aspect, yeah. But like if he went anyplace else, it'd be like, man, you chasing like another ring. Like I'm just throwing this out there.
I could see him getting a Ray Allen ring, like he just be in the corner shooting threes for somebody else. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? I could see him
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah,
yeah, he
yeah.
can't.
Cause he not
It's a
going. I don't
dangerous
think he
shooter.
gonna want to retire early. He gonna want to keep hooping, and I feel
I
like
see
he
him
could just
going
stand in the
overseas
corner
and
and shoot
playing in his
threes
40s.
forever.
Yeah, I see him playing overseas in his 40s. Like that, that's just the type of dude that he is. He just wants to play ball. But back to him winning another championship, like I definitely would say this. I definitely know he's not gonna win another championship with him being the number one. If he goes somewhere, he's gonna have to take the role as a number two or maybe even a number three. And I think that's part of the reason why Phoenix struggled too, because Booker was supposed to be the one and KD was supposed to be the two, and Bradley Beal was supposed to be the three.
But they tried
And
that
KD wound up being the number one on most nights.
because Booker not that guy for real. Look at
Nah,
his
I mean,
sneakers.
nah. He
Like,
dropped
would you
70
give
in
those
a game, man.
sneakers to a guy that's that guy?
No,
Them
those
book
sneakers
ones
are
is trash.
I
those are
think
some
it's
of the
about
worst
I,
sneakers I've seen a signature athlete ever get.
yeah,
Like honestly, they are
them not
terrible.
Tyus Jones ain't in the same point guard realm as Chris Paul, and they didn't have no real replacement for what Aiton did. And ultimately, I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the Suns, but I do like the fact that the NBA invested in another team that don't have an NBA championship, and the Suns are one of them. And look, they had their chance at it. They had a fair go at winning an NBA championship. They could not pull it off. But something gotta change after having KD, Bill, and Booker, and they right with the same record as Portland, like P said
Yeah,
earlier.
they got to
But
recoup some draft picks. If they don't,
yeah,
they're gonna be pretty bad for 10 years.
yeah, so I think it's just over with them, and it is what it is. But I wanted to go back to Will, and we gotta close it out, Jay, because Will's gonna take this and upload it to his channel. And
Okay.
everybody in the chat that's watching is subscribe to Will and subscribe to PSPN. You can subscribe to Will at 300 pounds, 300 pounds of sports knowledge, and y'all can subscribe to
That's
P.
a lot of sports knowledge, man. God damn.
Yeah, and y'all can subscribe to PSPN at the kitchen sink. You know what I'm saying? Y'all can subscribe to Jay at This Is JTV. I wanted to go back to
On
Will.
YouTube. This is JTV on YouTube. This is
Right,
Jay on Instagram. Follow me.
right. I wanted to go back to Will, ask him, who do you want to see at the end of these playoffs and we get to the finals? Who you want coming out the East and West, and who you got winning it all?
I think I think the Celtics are coming out of the East. Like I said before, this is Boston's title to lose at the end of the day. The West is a crapshoot, and it's one of those, man. I think it's going to come down to how the seeding plays out, and it's like how we talked about it earlier. There's still a lot that has to be decided between now and the end of the regular season on Sunday, because I think it's going to be more about who you don't play and like the matchups, how they're going to favor you. Because I think the only things that are guaranteed right now, OKC, has a top seed. Houston's going to be the two
Show
seed,
the East, Breeze.
and then like Sacramento and Dallas are 9 and 10 right now. Nothing else is guaranteed right now in the West. So
Mhm.
I think it really comes down to who you don't play, or who you don't, or like who you play and who you don't play. But I think at the end of the day, as long as Boston is healthy, and as long as they can keep Porzingis healthy, you know what I'm saying? That's easier said than done, because he got hurt during the playoffs last year, and they were still able to navigate their way around that. But I'm like, yo, if you can keep that dude in a bubble and bubble wrap for like the next 2.5 months, I say the Celtics win.
Okay. What about you, Jay? Who you got? How you calling it?
If I got my way, of course I would probably say OKC and the Magic. You know what I mean? Because those is my two teams outside of the Nets. But realistically, I would probably say OKC and Cleveland. But if we look in narratives, looked into something. I think it was Leaf who said it the other day. But uh, in the past, for the past few years, every time the Celtics win a championship, the Lakers win the following year. So might have to put the Lakers there because it might be rigged for the Lakers because the last couple Celtics championships, the Lakers win the next one.
Yeah. We go. I don't want to even add to that because
It's
I think
nasty
it's
work, but
egregious. Yeah. It's yeah. Go
it's a
ahead,
lot
Pete.
of nasty
I'm not even gonna
narratives that be
add to it.
coming true, man. And I
Yeah,
told you,
man.
once I saw that contract thing where they said the NFL is entertainment, not a sport, I lost faith in a lot of this shit, man.
Yeah, no, but that's the part of that I realized too, and it is hurtful because I don't think they have to do that part of it to make money. I think you could generate just as much money without the E for entertainment. But we're gonna go to P, man. Go ahead, P. Again, just
Uh,
for the chat, who do you
I
want to
re-
see in the finals?
well, first of all, I resoundingly disagree with what you just said. You can't
What?
make the same amount of money, regardless of what teams is in the finals. History shows us this. It's all about the big markets to make the big money. Um, you could go to 300 pounds of sports knowledge on YouTube to check out a show that me and Will did a couple weeks back, maybe a month back, about sports and entertainment and how it's intertwined and how the entertainment is kind of beating the sports right now. And, with what we've seen all year, it's supposed to be Cleveland and OKC, the best two teams all year, but that's not what it's going to be. We're going to get, for the 13th time, Lakers and Celtics in the NBA Finals, with the Celtics going ahead and winning.
If
And
it's
again,
Lakers and Celtics, I think the fucking Lakers gonna win, bro. Just because of that fucking dumb shit that I just said. And
Nah,
Leaf
I hear
yeah,
pointed
you
it
on
out.
that.
The
I hear you
last
on
four
that, but
times the Celtics won, I think the Lakers won the next one.
I
and
mean,
again, you know why I think it's nasty
Lakers
work
Celtics
because
rivalry is back now with Luca in LA
Mm-hmm.
is back.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Listen, the Lakers Celtics
bad.
rivalry is always going to be there, man.
Yeah,
Always.
it's bad because then again, it's another knock on Kyrie Irving. Like seriously, like okay, you couldn't win with Kyrie, but you could win with LeBron, and it's just like I just don't like. And the real thing that I don't like about it is it not being quote unquote Luka's team. Like yeah, you could argue that it's Luka's team on the Lakers, but I just thought I don't like it. Like I said, I'm not gonna disagree with it because of the E part of it, and I don't like the fact that they don't, what I mean, prioritize the basketball side opposed to the
The
entertainment side.
casual, the
I
casual
don't want to
fan.
see refs win games for these
Nah,
teams.
it's not gonna be that, bro. But the casual fan, unfortunately, doesn't give a damn about OKC Cleveland finals. Like, do you
I would
understand
love to
how
see
many?
that.
No, but you're not a casual fan, bro. You are an avid NBA fan. The casual fan, the person who couldn't even tell you what the Thunder's mascot is or what their team name is. Like OKC, they just know it's OKC or Oklahoma City. They don't know they're the Thunder, or they don't know that their mascot is a freaking bison named Rumble. You know what I'm saying? Like, the casual fan has no clue or no interest, I should say, on watching OKC in Cleveland. No interest whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, all right. So what I will say is, if I had it my way in the playoffs, bro, and there was two teams that made it to the finals, I definitely want to see OKC there. I'm not even gonna pretend. Houston, not so much. Lakers, definitely not them. Nuggets, they already won it this decade. The Clippers, I feel like they it's hard for them to beat these teams to actually make it to the conference finals. But this looking
Small
like a
game
healthy.
James.
Yeah, and then Kawhi Leonard, him actually, is it plausible to say, feasible that he makes it through the playoffs healthy? I'm not confident. You know what I'm saying? But I am confident that it's going to be a wild, wild west. I know that, but I got OKC coming out the west, and I got them. I got them facing. I got them facing the Celtics or the Cavs. But if I had to choose between the Celtics or the Cavs, I
Let's
would
go
say probably
Cavs, man.
this. I would probably say the Celtics because I think that
No Kenny Anderson, Kenny Atkinson love, man. What happened?
yeah, no, I like it, but I don't like that. I like the whole narrative of the Celtics only winning because all of the teams that they played was hurt, and I don't think the contender. I forgot who they beat in the Western Conference that quick. Dallas. They they,
Dallas.
they they made easy work of Dallas, and I thought for it to be a finals, I wanted to see something a little more competitive, and I think we would get a more competitive finals with a Celtics OKC Thunder. I don't know if the Cavs got what it takes, man. I don't know, man. I don't know. And DeAndre Hunter being able to stop a Tatum, they got him to stop Tatum, but I don't know, man. I gotta go to Stat News to see what the stats look like with DeAndre Hunter versus Tatum because I'm not convinced, bro. I
I'm
want to see
telling you,
OKC versus the Thunder, and I want the Celtics to lose in a
I'm telling you,
seven-game series versus the Thunder, bro.
this is the year
That's
Jason
what you want to
Tatum
see?
puts the
Celtics
league
lose.
and the world
Okay.
on notice, man. I'm telling you, he's tired of the disrespect.
Who?
This Tatum, this is going to be the postseason that
Well,
he
listen, Tatum
destroys
Tot gonna
people,
get
man.
way more disrespect from me, especially if he lose. Now I mean,
Nah, I'm telling you,
because he
he's going
think
to
he top
destroy this
5.
year, man.
Nigga couldn't even get no minutes in the Olympics. Know what I mean?
And
He ain't all
that's
that.
part.
Nigga
I'm
won the
telling you, that's
championship,
part
couldn't
of the
get no minutes. Know
disrespect.
what I mean? He ain't all
That's
that.
part of the
Disrespect
disrespect.
that man.
From Steve Kerr all the way down to the analysts when he sit there and says, when he made that comment about what about me for face of the league, like why? Like, I'm telling you, this dude he's got a point to prove, and I'm telling you,
Well,
35,
he
40 a
gotta
game
learn.
this
He gotta get a
postseason run,
jump
man.
shot, maybe.
35, 40 a game this postseason is what he's going to average. I'm telling you.
No,
We,
no way.
I'm telling you.
hold on. We
No
listen.
way.
I want to do another one of these probably after every round, like a playoff round, like after round one, going in round two, after round two,
Well,
going into
shit. After
conference
did y'all
final.
talk about the play-in specifically? Because I felt like that's what I was gonna say to y'all when I first jumped on it. Like the play-in is really what we really need to be talking about before the playoffs even start. Because the play-in is next week. The playoffs don't start to the week after that. The play-in is then what we
No,
need
they
to be.
start like directly after because the season ends Sunday and
Yeah, the
then the
13th, right?
play-in, yeah, the play-ins are Tuesday and Wednesday, and then the playoffs start like Thursday, Friday. So
Oh, heard you.
they're not giving them no breaks. It's just like go
Got you.
get them, win that game, and now you going into a 7-game series with a team way better than you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, so I want to
So it
I
close
hope
sound
out.
like
I want Orlando to shock somebody, man.
so what we got: Celtics, Thunder, Celtics. Was that what I heard?
What?
For championship predictions. I took the
Oh,
Celtics. I think Will took the
Yeah,
Celtics.
I took the
Jay,
Thunder.
you took the Thunder.
I I got the Thunder, I guess, because shit, I got Cleveland going over the Celtics. So even,
Well,
but
who you got winning
I
the
take the
chip
Thunder.
though? You got the Thunder, right?
I guess I got the Thunder.
And then Breeze, you said you got who?
The
Thunder.
OKC Thunder.
Oh, you got okay. So we got Celtics 2-2. All right, cool. I was just making sure to see
Yeah,
how it all play out.
yeah. I wanted to close out with Will because I know he's gonna upload it on the video, so I kind of wanted to let him have the last word. All right. So let's see. Thunder. No, you said Celtics versus Thunder, and the Celtics winning, right? That's what you said.
Not the Thunder, because I really haven't picked anybody in the West yet, just for the simple fact that I'm looking and I'm waiting to see how the bracket really, like officially forms there, just due to the fact that outside of Oklahoma City and Houston, we really don't know who's going to be where, in the first
Man,
round.
I got a hot take. Boston going to lose to Orlando if they play them.
Who?
Nah, I don't see
If
that.
Boston play Orlando, they're going to lose to Orlando.
Oh, come on, stop.
I don't see that.
Stop.
Last year,
That take going hard as
I
ice
haven't
cream.
been watching them that much this year, but last year they was having Boston was having trouble with every team from Florida,
Orlando
and
took a major step back this year. I'm disappointed in them because I thought they
they
was
was
going to
hurt
take a
half
step
the
up.
year. Are they healthy now? Because they was hurt
Nah,
half the year.
I think
They
Suggs still out.
yeah, Suggs is still out, but yeah, man, they disappointed me a lot. Them and
I think
Phoenix
they
have
match
been
up.
real
They
disappointing.
match up well with the Celtics, and the Celtics ain't. I don't know. Them niggas fools gold, man.
Nah, man, that's a damn good
Tatum
team
not
out
that
there in
good.
Boston.
Jaylen Brown don't got no left hand.
That's a damn good team out there in Boston, man.
They just shoot a lot of threes. That's it.
and they make a lot of threes, bro.
They make a lot of threes.
Peyton Pritchard is better than a lot of people give him credit for.
Yeah, listen, hold on. For the record, Peyton Pritchard.
They got a couple dudes you do not know that can hit threes on that team.
No, Jay, know that Peyton Pritchard broke the 3-point record for the Celtics for a single season for, I think, a Celtic player or off of the bench or something.
You don't gotta remind me about Pritchard. Last game we played against them, bro. If it wasn't for Pritchard, we'd have won the game. But it's just that Pritchard was going off.
Yeah, but like Drew Holiday, man, the catalyst that he is, and to like Will's point that he said earlier, when they lose him at the end of the year, that's the major cog that's gonna fall off that team, where they're gonna go from being the championship favorite to just being one of the championship teams. Like Drew Holiday, he's the best basketball player. And he's a field general on the court, man. He, the team knows that he's going to basically call the shots. Like, yeah, it's Tatum's team. Yeah, Brown is the number 2, but Drew Holiday is the catalyst of that team, so to speak.
Yeah, the other 2 niggas you named is bum ass niggas. Yeah, that's why Tatum gonna keep getting disrespected, because he's not the catalyst, even though he's the number 1
on Milwaukee, man. Like Giannis is undisputably the best player in Milwaukee, but Drew Holiday was the catalyst of that team.
Drew Holiday, I seen him guard Kevin Durant on the last play of the game in the playoffs. I seen him guard Andrew Nembhard in the last play of the game versus the Pacers. Bro, I seen him be a defensive playmaker, not just an offensive playmaker, a defensive playmaker. He's definitely a cog in the wheel.
But again, one through a small 4. Like 1 through 3, no problem. But he can even guard some smaller 4s, man.
Yeah.
But he's definitely a great defender. I give him that.
But close. Let's close out with Will. Will, close this out, man. Close this out with the You got to give us a West team. We can't let you not have a West team. Like, come on, bro. Like, you got to give us a Western Conference team, man. Come on.
All right. You know what? Looking at it, if I had to just go off the top of my head right now, I guess I say Golden State.
Golden State?
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that, but wow. Playoff Jimmy, man. Like, you got a lot of confidence.
Look at how Golden State been playing the end of the year since they got Jimmy. I feel like they've been one of the best teams, if not the best team in the West since they got Jimmy.
We're gonna close out with let's close out with his soliloquy, then we're gonna close out so he can upload the video.
Nah, that's crazy though. Golden State, I wasn't expecting that one.
I was surprised too.
Like I said earlier, man. Jimmy in the playoffs, man, he takes dudes lunch money, man. That's it, man. He punks guys. So I mean, with that and the shooting of Curry, they got something, man.
Okay. Listen, if a 7th seed win the NBA championship, hypothetically, I don't know if it's the first time, but next time we hear, I would know. You know what I mean? I'm gonna check. But hold on, I gotta say thank you, man. I gotta say thank you to PSPN and the Kitchen Sink podcast. Gotta say thank you to my guy. This is JTV for pulling up. Gotta
finger guns like Ja.
Throw the grenade down.
I gotta give a special thanks to Will from 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge. That's a lot of knowledge. We're gonna be back with more content really soon, man. Hopefully we could do another one of these. You know what I'm saying? This was dope. Hopefully y'all subscribing, tapping the like button. And yeah, man, thank y'all for tuning in, man. Have a good night, y'all. We'll be back real soon with more content, but have a good night, y'all. Peace.
Safety.